This is an audio of the article or write-up I did called Truth is Love, Love is Truth. The content for this article are conceptions of, quote, love in society. Love represents good. Truth is love, love is truth. Embodying and becoming truth/love in our world. A hard truth hyphen, can you face your shadow with honesty? Care for truth, and a little summary. This piece is long, as it is about many things I have written about in other articles, and it corresponds, correlates, and interconnects the patterns for a better understanding. This piece has information and correspondences not made in previous articles or posts. There are many images, meme quotes that take up a lot of place as well, so it appears longer. I urge you to listen or read to this, as is probably the most important write-up I have done so far. Conceptions of, quote, love in society. Love seems to represent too many things in the standard definition. Every time love is used in the modern world, it can be directly substituted for another noun or verb. It has no real definition of its own. C.S. Lewis had conceived of 4 loves, while John Lee formulated 6 love styles as a basis for understanding interpersonal relationships. The 4 love styles are storge, in Greek, which is affection, familial love. The second one is philia, which is friendship, bond, common interest. The third one is eros, which is romance, being in love, loving someone. The fourth one is agape, which is unconditional love. So those are the 4 loves that C.S. Lewis conceived of. Now John Lee has 6 love styles, and these ones I find a bit better than the 4. There's eros, from the Greek word for erotic or passionate, a passionate physical and emotional love based on aesthetic enjoyment, a stereotype of romantic love, hormones flying, that type of thing. The second one is ludus, from the Latin word meaning sport or play, a love that is played as a game or sport. Winning, fun, may have multiple partners at once, short relationships, lust, getting laid. It's about conquest. The third of the 6 love styles is storge, which was in the 4 love styles of C.S. Lewis as well. Storge is from the Greek word meaning friendship, an affectionate love that slowly develops from friendship based on similarity and not physical. The fourth one is pragma, from the Greek word meaning practical, love that is driven by reason, not feeling, but practical, common goals shared between people. Mania is from the Greek word meaning frenzy. It is highly volatile love, obsession, fueled by low self-esteem. It's a need for love, being possessive, jealous, having highs and lows. The Hollywood mania of love affairs, angry love, revenge love, killing yourself for love, controlling others for love. It's an addiction like heroin. The 6th type is agape, from the Greek word meaning divine or spiritual. A selfless, altruistic love, quote, true love, sacrificing anything for a partner, selfless love. Unconditional love is presented as the, quote, spiritual love, as the greatest love, and just pure positive feeling towards someone no matter what they do, or towards everything because you, quote, love it all. Unconditional love, agape, can be the most dangerous, as Thomas Sheridan points out in his lecture in Norway. It is required from a parent towards a child because that child depends on the parent for survival until it is mature enough. Unconditional love towards another person or several people is not healthy. If you start abusing me, am I supposed to still love you unconditionally? Would you? No. You are an adult. You have to learn to love conditionally because what other people do does matter, and letting people get away with harm is not good or healthy. Thomas Sheridan makes an analogy about learning a lot from cats. A dog will love you unconditionally, but cats won't, and maybe at some levels they are healthier because of this. They are saying, if you hurt me, I won't be nice to you. A dog will love you no matter what you do to them. It is charming and endearing to view a dog in that way, but for humans to live our lives in such a way is very dangerous. To love someone unconditionally when it is not a child can develop into a form of fanaticism. You become fanatically devoted to someone, you give yourself to them, etc. You end up having no control over yourself and can be led into the gates of hell by that person by being fooled and not being careful. You can only have unconditional love for those who depend on you because they cannot take care of themselves, like your child. You are responsible for them because they have not matured to a point to be able to do it on their own. With others, though, you have to maintain your sovereignty as a human being. A baby is not a sovereign yet. Unconditional love from the parent is required for its survival, or at least that is how it should be happening. Unconditional love applied generally is chaos of letting people who harm and violate the rights of others continue to receive care and affection to do so. There is no healthy reason to care and feel affection towards those that harm you. That is deep psychological abandonment or trauma to do so. You don't put down your child when they are learning and need your guidance, but you can put down another being that is supposed to be mature and responsible to some degree when they violate your rights. You have the right to speak up and tell them what they are doing and no longer be involved with them in your life. Quote, love means what exactly? People express the use of the word, quote, love in many ways, but they all have another emotional state of being that can be described instead of what we use love to represent. Love is a very common word used in life, in movies, music, literature, magazines, pop culture, etc. People say, quote, love in reference to other things such as warmth, happiness, joy, kindness, admiration, appreciation, preference, care, affection, infatuation, praise, desire, romance, lust, codependency, and probably many more things I can't think of. We say, I love it, or I love this car, or song, or movie, or food. We mean like, or appreciate, enjoy, desire, become attached to and care, quote, care for an object, not a living being. But love as a word is being used anyways to represent these things. We also say, I love her, or I love him. We are actually referencing care, affection, romance, desire, infatuation, or other emotional feeling states. Loving a spouse is different from loving your child and differs from loving your animal companion. There's different levels or degrees of care and affection. The birth of a child, a sunset, an animal showing affection to you, all can create feelings inside on an emotional level. You don't quote love a car, song, movie, or food. That is something else. Quote love can be an emotional feeling sensation. Falling in love, romance, a chemical release feeling sensation, which is sometimes real and sometimes a trick in the brain. We are using one word to describe many different things. A far range of use has diluted a true meaning for the word. I have noticed that some people may even be very attached to a particular definition of quote love and refuse any critical analysis of the word for a psychological reason of satisfying a need they have that is being fulfilled by that definition. It is as though the word quote love is now quote sacred, and no one can dare define it or tell you what it is, which is what some people try to say about the concept of quote God. You can't define it or tell people what it is. How dare you attempt to do such a thing? Period. These are both words used to mind control so many consciousnesses. They are ideas in the mind, concepts that have been fed, sold, and bought into by people. That is a spell. Words and their definitions and meanings are the basis for our ideas that we develop greater understanding through correspondence and pattern recognition. Why obfuscate a word to such an extent? It seems that, quote, love, as the ideal everyone wants to seek, but have so many definitions for, is being used as a manipulative tool upon the consciousness of people who grow up in our society, watch TV and movies, read magazines and books, listen to music, etc. It has become another manipulated word, obfuscation to create a spell on the mind to alter our understanding of the word. From our understanding of a concept being from many sources and repetition inculcated into us, we develop behavior that correlates with this concept of, quote, love. Changing the definitions for words that are used as the basis for conceptualization and ideas will change corresponding relationships and overall holistic understanding. The media puts ideas of, quote, love as teenagers, happily ever after love stories, adult romances and lust, developing a princess complex meme to infect young women with, having ideas of perfection that are non-realistic, of a perfect partner, etc. Quote, loving a product was developed to have people consume. Celebrities are now, quote, loved as the new, quote, gods of entertainment and distraction, hero worship, idolization, etc. All of these false ideas for love creates unrealistic expectations in relationships. Thomas Sheridan points out that much of the concept of romantic love actually comes from the Bronte sisters who invented modern romantic ideas. They were 3 daughters of a Presbyterian minister, so already they had limitations on the concept of romance, and concocted in their own little worlds a neurosis of what romance was supposed to be, and this became the norm that others bought into, believed in, and accepted. Previously, people would get married out of necessity. Romance didn't really exist. You would do what you were told to do by your family or the community. Anyone who breaks from the norm of society or family is usually attacked, engaged into rituals, or even killed by society because they broke from the norm. Because the culture does not tolerate it. This is particularly true in strict cultures like extreme religions. Quote, love would be seen by society as something that is very dangerous. You can't have people randomly falling in, quote, love with whoever they want, because that would damage the structure and integrity of society. People are made afraid to run away, afraid to love someone. We need to regulate our emotions, be an adult, and not let them rule us. A perfect spouse, perfect house, perfect car are all too many expectations that are not being met, and then people crash from failure to attain these things that give them temporary sensational pleasure fixes. They are constantly trying to get a fix of chemicals, this false happiness. They try to get this from everything in life. This is the obsession with feeling good, or part of the obsession. Chemical sensations. Those who strive off of the emotional states they identify with, quote, love, eventually have the thrill diminished because it's not meant to last. The neurochemical release of dopamine is an evolutionary imperative for survival by procreation and continuation of the genetic pool. It did its job, and then it's gone. We have a chemical sensation from dopamine when we are in a state of, quote, falling in love, or getting complimented by someone. It makes us feel good about ourselves. And also we get this feeling when we eat chocolate or other foods. All chemical tricks to subvert a capacity to recognize what is right, good, and true. Quote, fall in love with the wrong person because you are led by chemical releases and sensations in your body. Becoming fooled and infatuated by someone who compliments you because you are immersed in, quote, feelings to direct you. Eating something because your body says it makes you, quote, feel good, or because it, quote, tastes good. Sensory pleasure seeking and pleasure seeking in general has control over our life. This is part of the illusion of the five senses, which I provide a link to in the article. Dopamine is a chemical release in the brain that induces feelings of pleasure. They are temporary and not supposed to last. Immersion into these states of sensation becomes an attachment and, quote, need for them, for people, whereby it is sought after and desired in someone's life as a source of meaning and comfort. It is an addiction. Rather than face discomfort and truth, they remain attached to delusional platitudes that appease their self-image and self-concept to feel good about their current condition, actions, and behaviors. They engage in ignorance of what inhibits the, quote, feel-good sensation or self-assessment of themselves, their self-concept, their self-image. That is to say, the truth that hurts, that makes you face yourself. They ignore that in favor of feeling good. Infatuation is an attraction at some level that is not based on truth of any real significance, but a deceptive feeling summoned as a result of mind control. Infatuate comes from the Latin infatuat, meaning to be, quote, made foolish or made a fool of. Many people associate infatuation with, quote, love. Infatuation is the result of a chemical trick in your body released from the limbic system to attract to you someone you find appealing, someone who is an ideal mate for perpetuation of your genetics and survival. The trick of the chemicals is there to create an attraction in order for procreation, spreading your DNA, etc. Some people are together that shouldn't be, but still are, because they are being ruled by sensations, feelings, and emotions, and do not understand how they are being manifested and created in the first place. Infatuation is used as the mind control tool through compliments, praise, and flattery. These are very powerful tools to influence and manipulate people. Thomas Sheridan calls this, quote, love bombing, and I agree with that term. This is an aspect in cults and in the New Age movement, the whole glitter, rosy colored glasses, it's all making people feel good. Telling people they are wonderful, great, and perfect no matter what they do shuts off their critical thinking capacities and develops a level of endearment or infatuation for the person delivering the message or in the belief itself. The person often, quote, falls for the one doing the praising, either, quote, falling in love romantically, or falling for what someone is selling. People buy into bullshit because they want to believe it. Either way, it's a con job. You are being conned, tricked, duped, bamboozled, hoodwinked, screwed, deceived, manipulated, and fooled. This is the infatuation, being made a fool of. Someone is selling you something you want to buy. You want to buy into praise, compliments, and flattery. It boosts your self-esteem, self-image, and self-concept you have created that is your ego personality identity construct. It makes you feel good. That is the most important aspect. Feeling good about yourself, your self-image, thinking you are, quote, good, is what seems to drive most people in their worldview and belief acceptance. Those who can influence people through emotions, feelings, and sensations of compliments, flattery, and praise have inculcated memes into many minds as a mind virus. The understanding of what is being done slips by conscious awareness, critical thinking, asking questions, thinking things through, and coming to accurate conclusions. The limbic neurochemical effect is overriding the neocortical higher order functionality. A cult functions in the same way, quote, love bombing the followers into providing the needs they are missing in their lives. Attention, promises of fulfillment of some kind, praise, compliments, flattery, etc. We also develop cults of personality in our own, quote, truther groups. This is the basis for, quote, gurus. People follow one person and seem to accept everything they say as gospel. People uncritically and unquestioningly accept, quote, spiritual gurus' beliefs because they are selling what people want to hear. Now, with the New Age beliefs, it's even more, quote, feel-good manipulation and memes about 5D, fifth-dimensional living, hyperdimensional ascension, soul hierarchies, spirit this or that, quote, balance, and other buzzwords, circular reasoning, glitter talk, rosy-colored glasses, avoiding the negative, on and on with more bullshit to feel special and good about ourselves. If you want to conceive of the possibilities of fifth dimensional or other dimensionals, fine. But get out of living in the clouds and get grounded and engage the reality of right action necessary in the world to produce freedom and peace. These beliefs are like a cult, an imaginal mental cult, to construct a belief system in your mind to make you feel good about whatever you want, to allow you to believe whatever you want. Whatever problems or insecurities you have, this person seems to fix you up and clear all the baggage that you have and make you more, quote, spiritual and feel good. Now, as I said before, it's not necessarily the person that can do this, as long as you maintain that imaginal mental cult and attachment to that belief, it'll do the same thing to you. This is being made foolish because of a feeling that is being summoned. This is magic again. Spells of words are manipulating you into summoning your inner energy of feelings to influence your decision-making ability and lead you down a potential false path. It's a system of mind viruses that infect people towards living in a delusional fantasy of illusions, beliefs, wishes, wants, desires, intents, etc. Not the real work of learning, of seeking and discovering truth, letting go of attachment to illusions that make us feel good about ourselves, our ego, and really getting grounded in reality of truth before we go floating off into the clouds of possibilities. Codependency is often regarded as, quote, love. If you are codependent in a relationship, you feel that if the person leaves you or they die, you will kind of die as well, or you won't be able to survive. Codependency exists in its largest form as the ego personality identity attachment to government and corporations. Now, children are codependent on their parents. But this is the way things work for children. At a certain age, you no longer need codependence. Healthy adults should not be codependent. A normal, healthy person should be independent. Codependency in relationships reflects our codependency to society as a control system over our ability to survive that we come to believe we need. Unconditional love is only healthy for a parent to have towards their child because the child is dependent on them for survival. Conditional love is the healthy one, but it can also be taken to the extreme. This extreme is, quote, loving someone as long as they don't put on any weight, they remain pretty, they don't lose hair, etc. Quote, loving them as long as they don't change is not true care for that person. Codependency is not part of a healthy relationship. If someone does you wrong, there is no foolishness of being required to, quote, love or care for them unconditionally. Right is right, wrong is wrong, harming others is wrong. Taking personal responsibility for our actions is required. Actions then need to be taken to admit our wrongdoings. That's part of real forgiveness. Thomas Sheridan points out the phrase, "You complete me," from the movie Jerry Maguire. And it is the insanity of codependency. It demonstrates the magic spell the word, quote, love has upon us and how we live our lives and its association to negative modalities of being. People associate that scene with tremendous positive, quote, love, and they think, quote, it's so great. Their heart just melts when they hear that. Some people don't want their fantasy shattered and will not like hearing this. If someone says, "You complete me," they are either saying they are broke and damaged and your job is now to fix them, or they are putting a guilt trip on you to feel sorry and take care of them. "You complete me" is saying, I'm a failure and your job is to take care of me. Your job, I'm a failure and your job is to make me less of a failure, to take care of me since I don't take care of myself. This makes you a slave. It's a trap to get a free life. Someone guilts the other person into staying with them. The need to have someone in your life to complete you begins in childhood from poor parenting or neglect of various kinds and of varying degrees. We all have varying degrees of abandonment issues that manifest in our ego, personality, identity constructs in the lives we lead, and they can all be healed if we face them and choose to change our ways. Love represents good. The above was a breakdown on man's sensational feeling attributes to, quote, love in the various aspects of what we feel. The word, quote, love currently has many definitions, is diluted to the point of being used in the place of the word like, and yet is a word given much value and importance. Care and affection are the words that most accurately reflect the healthiest kind of, quote, love that people engage in, the, quote, love in friendships, family, and partners. An affection and care for others that you have come to know and have identified with on common ground. This is the love style storage from the love types. Here is the etymology to show you the validity of this conclusion. So if you go to Etym Online and look at love, you'll see that in Old English, Lufu was love, affection, and friendliness, which is what I'm saying our common sensational feeling use of love actually is. Then when you trace it back to the origins of the Germanic words, it comes from Proto-Indo-European lube, which is to care, desire, love. So the most accurate use for our feeling sensational love in society is to use the words care and affection. It's a type of friendliness. That is what storage is. Friendship, affection, i.e. care. Storage or care is the closest our common use of, quote, love comes to, and is actually the word we should be using most of the time. Why is love quote, love being used when other words are more specific to what we are trying to give meaning to. We like and prefer to represent that which we like, what we admire, and think of as good, as being representable by the word, quote, love. Care is good, affection is good, etc. All the things we use, quote, love for are in reference to things we view or deem as, quote, good for us. Not being alone, having someone in your life, having sex regularly, these are all things we view as, quote, good, even if they may be an attachment upon which we base fulfillment of some need we desire. We don't want to be alone or fear being alone to get depressed or get depressed when we are alone. We want to have a partner in our lives to have some purpose, meaning, attachment, significance, etc. We want a partner because we want to feel wanted, appreciated, loved, quote, loved, cared for, the pleasure of company, sex, etc. So again, we see these things as, quote, good for us. They fulfill our unsatisfied, quote, needs, and therefore we associate them with, quote, love. We think of, quote, love as everything that is good. Everything good is only achievable with truth, not lies. People consider, quote, love to be the uniting force. This can be true if you understand it correctly, but most people are thinking of the compromising, quote, love that cares not for truth, that sacrifices truth, and often spits in its face. This is, quote, love that prevents people from speaking hard to face, harsh, or hurtful, uncomfortable truths that people do not want to hear because this is a false love or feeling, quote, happy or, quote, good about yourself. Truth can hurt, and lies can be oh so sweet and comforting. Truth is what actually unites, and lies divide. People who cannot face the truth or do not care for the truth attempt to use dismissive fallacies to invalidate the point of truth being made. These include labeling someone or something said as judgment, quote, judgment, or, quote, judgmental, labeling it as, quote, divisive or divisive, since you dare tell someone that they are part of the problem and are talking or living out bullshit modalities of being in their lives. The bullshit needs to be called out in the world. We need more bullshit callers, not letting people get away with their bullshit ways of living based on lies, deceptions, and delusions that create more direct and indirect harm that we partake in on a collective scale to continue to manifest our co-created suffering, co-created self-inflicted suffering. So here's the first image meme. Caution. I'm allergic to BS, so keep it real or get out of my face. You think I'm off the charts yet? Do you need another source to validate the truth spoken of what I'm talking about? Well, here is what Mark Passio has to say about the bullshit people buy into. And he was saying this about the hard truth I will delve into at the end of this article. Mark Passio says, if something you are doing is generating suffering, then you should not be doing it. Thinking people cannot tell each other what they should and shouldn't be doing is new age bunk because it wounds their precious little ego, so we can't ever say anything true about what is being wrongly done, because that would dare threaten someone else's belief system, and their ego reacts. Maybe the problem is that people aren't speaking about the truth and what is right, so then other people don't see any reaction or blowback to anything they do, so they continue a practice unabated because no one is calling them out on it. We are not calling each other out on bullshit. That is the problem. This New Age notion that letting people do all the harm that they want and never bringing up the negative of the harm that they are doing, never calling them on the harm they are doing, is nonsense. Those teaching this are false spiritual teachers. Mark Passio, What on Earth is Happening, podcast number 122. Yes, if you know what that show is about, you know what that hard truth is that many people in the quote truther movement don't want to face. I will get into it at the end because it is a huge part of truth/love that people refuse to accept and continue to lie to themselves about. So, stop the bullshit and face the truth. Another dismissive tactic is to use the label, quote, ego, because someone is daring to compare that person, judge them, or is telling them something they don't want to face about themselves and perceive it as an attack on their very concept of self and understanding of reality. Quote, love has become a buzzword used in pseudo-spiritual ways to appear all positive, quote, peaceful, and, quote, spiritually evolved. Kindness is also synonymous with, quote, love for many people. This obfuscation of words is a perfect manipulative tool to dismiss those who speak truths someone does not want to hear by labeling them as, quote, not being kind, quote, not being nice, comma, not being, quote, loving, being, quote, mean, quote, hateful, or, quote, cruel, or, quote, judgmental, etc. There's many more terms. This is emotional mind control because they can't handle the contrast between the truth spoken and their alignment with falsity, error, wrong, immorality, etc. The hassle factor plays a part, and we have people who do not want to be labeled in such a way and are in fear of speaking the truth. It places a constriction on consciousness. Not thinking we have a right to speak up against wrongdoings and bullshit people are involved in is a mind virus of pacifism and death of the sacred masculine principle of action. So there was another image meme quote. It says, I'm not mean, I'm brutally honest. It's not my fault truth hurts. Here's a band-aid. I have another quote. This is from Fyodor Dostoevsky, and he says, lying to ourselves is more deeply ingrained than lying to others. Attachment to lies does not bring unity. Anyone who thinks true unity can be had with anything other than honesty and truth is lying to themselves. You can indeed have false unity based on commonality of lies being accepted amongst people. This is what we currently have. Look at the world around you. Everyone is lying to everyone. No one dares to tell the truth because they don't want to risk damaging their social interactions, their quote, loyalties and attachments. We need to survive, procreate, and have a social standing, so we subsume ourselves into the system and become part of a cog in the machine. We have created an attempt at false unity by not seeking, discovering, and learning the truth, and therefore not speaking the truth. This impetus sacrifices the true care for truth in most cases because of the necessary involvement of time and energy to maintain survival in the system, along with the family development taking place and all the other unnecessary distractions that permeate our cultures. To think that true unity can be had with anything other than truth and honesty is folly and not based in a true understanding of how natural law manifestation operates. It is based in compromise, sacrifice, walking on eggshells, keeping the peace, etc., in order to maintain an illusion based in falsity. It is all a rejection of truth because of fear. True unity comes about when more and more truth is shared commonly amongst people. Common sense becomes common to everyone. Everyone develops true conscience. Everyone knows the difference between right and wrong and doesn't try to invent rights from wrongs with excuses, justifications, validations, and other rationalizations. The more truth people that have a common understanding, the greater their common ground, unity, and bond in a relationship will be. Truth unites, lies divide. Lies are what divide. Those who want to pretend like they are spiritual, quote, spiritual, and tell others who speak truth that they are, quote, divisive, quote, egoic, quote, judgmental, etc., when confronted with hard-to-face truth, are doing so because they are attached to false beliefs, lies, deceptions, and illusions they base their ego, personality, identity construct upon and cannot let go of. So I'll just interject the image meme quote here. People hate truth. Luckily, the truth doesn't care. Those who are attached to lies are the ones being divisive. They are the ones divided inside of themselves through non-unity, non-harmony, non-alignment, non-integration, non-coherence, non-congruence, opposition, and conflict with what is right, good, true, moral, etc. But they do not understand this. When truth is spoken, it contradicts their beliefs about themselves, their attachment to their current modality of living, and cognitive dissonance kicks in, and they need to maintain the sanctity of their beliefs. They must sustain the illusion they are attached to and base an aspect of their identity upon. It is viewed as an attack on them, on their sense of self, on their understanding of reality, and they cannot allow that to happen. Their ignorance, denial, and refusal to accept the truth is what causes the divide. The only reason there is division is when the truth is not possessed, aligned with, united with, and embodied as part of their being in what they do, their actions, behaviors, and how they live their lives. So here's another image meme quote for the beginning of the next paragraph. The only people who are mad at you for speaking the truth are those people who are living a lie. Keep speaking the truth. When you understand this, you understand truth brings, quote, love / true care. Truth is what brings true care and affection for others on a common ground and understanding. Truth brings real respect. The common ground based in lies, deceptions, and delusions people have bought into and believe to be the truth is not true unity, but a false unity based in fantasy. People say, love unites. Yes, quote, love based in truth, not, quote, love based in keeping quiet, silence to not offend, or as a false compassion, false kindness, or false loyalty. Do you think having, quote, good feelings internally, or about yourself conceptually, or having a smile on your face, talking in calm tones, and ignoring what wrongdoings is representative of, quote, love? That it doesn't matter what your choices and decisions result in? It doesn't matter what harm is being done? As long as you, quote, feel good about yourself, then all is right with the world. Everything is perfect as long as you feel good and tell yourself you are not engaging in harm, smile, talk nice. It doesn't matter what you actually do, as if your actions, behaviors, or habits don't actually reflect your state of consciousness and degree of alignment with truth. No, of course not. That would be magic. No one could possibly understand psychology enough to perceive that within other individuals. There is a saying I made. It goes like this. The more you say, the more you do, the more I see of you. So it's a catchy little rhyme. The more you say, the more you do, the more I see of you. That is how I have lived much of my life. I have observed and been quiet. Ask anyone who knows me in real life. I am a quiet person that does not speak much. I observe what is going on around me and what other people are doing. I am speaking now that I have developed degrees of truth that I understand to my core. Most of those that know me, unfortunately, have not begun or initiated themselves onto the spiritual journey and path towards truth. I am silent and quiet to them, or ignore them, because they do not respond well to being confronted with truths they do not want to face that they currently exhibit in their lives that I am seeing. So they want to shut me up by ignoring the truth that I speak. They ignore what I say. They don't say anything, or revolt in offense, in quote offense and quote insult. So quiet I am, observing as usual. If you think comforting lies and placating other people's delicate sensibilities is what, quote, loving and, quote, respectful towards another person and being false, quote, nice, overrides importance and true care for truth, you don't, quote, get it yet. The continued perpetuation of lies, deceptions, and delusions we all buy into is not, quote, love, care, affection, kindness, or anything good. It is only maintenance and sustenance of existing social structures and emotional attachments that override your true care for truth. If you truly, quote, love / care for people, you tell them the truth when their expressions of consciousness when they are expressing their consciousness in ways that are based in fear, ignorance, confusion, etc. Bullshit needs to be called out, or else it will perpetuate. We need to be calling people out on it. When people are incapable of hearing the truth and react through negative ego personality identity manifestations. That's telling you to shut up because they can't handle it. It's ignoring truth and ignoring you in the end because they get mad at you and have a grudge against the messenger for attempting to shatter their false reality and help them align their perceptions with truth. Care for truth is a dangerous and solitary path in a world overcome by illusions and falsity. Truth is the path towards real freedom. There was an image meme quote in that paragraph. It is, "The truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off." I have a few more quotes here, just in text. "And if I had to choose between those who never tell me my faults and those who tell them to me too rudely, I ought infinitely rather to prefer the harsh and rough truth to the mild and civil falsehood." That was said by James Freeman Clarke. The next quote is, "My friends distress me, who extol my vices as though they were virtues, and regard my thorns as roses. Where is that rude enemy who will tell me all my deformities?" That's a quote from a Persian poet called Sadi. Another quote is, My friend helps me. My foe is also useful to me. The one shows me what I'm able to be, the other what I ought to be, what I should be. That's from the German poet Schiller. Another quote is, I am a fortunate man. If I do anything wrong, I am sure to be told of it. And that's from Confucius. Another quote is, collusive love is not really love at all. It is the willingness to sell your friend down the river in order to maintain your own popularity and to avoid conflict. In many cases, the tough love that would tell the truth is the real love. This is from an article, What It Really Means to Be True to Someone You Love. The last quote is, the world is sick because of shams, pretenses, empty shows, forms which have nothing left in them but dead habit. Every age needs its prophets to rouse it from its deadly sleep in some dear, delightful falsehood. And that was said by James Freeman Clarke again. So all these quotes reflect the need, the understanding that real love is truth. And that's what I'm getting at in this article, which I will be expounding upon as we continue reading, is that love is truth. Truth is love. Not speaking the truth is not love. All you're doing is supporting bullshit, lies, deceptions, illusions, and perpetuating wrong, bad, evil, falsity, immorality, all that bad stuff. Speaking the truth is important. Truth is the most important thing. Truth brings love. Without truth, there is no real love. So the quote for the next paragraph is, recognize truth and stand for it. Then you understand that truth does bring unity, and truth brings greater care and affection for many things around us. Care for other people, other animals, the planet, etc. The less truth we have, the more lies we have, and the less we can unite based on truth. Speaking the truth is based in care, quote, love. Not to be, quote, hateful or, quote, mean as some view it. Truth is what is good. What is good is what we like to represent as the colloquial societal word of, quote, love. We use the word, quote, love to represent what is good. Truth is good. Truth is right. Truth is unity. Truth is, quote, love / good. Truth is, quote, love / true care. Care for truth is unity. Quote, love is care, is truth, is unity. Actually, that last one doesn't have a quote around it. It's love is care, is truth, is unity. Now we are getting closer to a deeper understanding of love, no quotes, as a force, not simply as a feeling, as a sensation in the body that we can use other words to attribute those sensations and give meaning to. So here's a bunch more quotes. Let's take a drink. All right. The preference for social acceptance over truth is a mortal danger to humanity and even to life on earth. Let those of us who are willing to put truth first, to love it and accept it, no matter the cost in terms of social ostracism and hatred from those who must live in their comfort zone, let us stand firm as the true upholders and protectors of humanity and of all life on our planet. And that's from Peace Legacy, Facebook group, Facebook page that I follow. Here's another quote. Common to Luther, Socrates, and Jesus is a loyalty to the truth, which being has revealed through and as their personal experience of life. Their love of truth is foremost. It overrides concern for freedom, even life itself. That love, or quote love, surrenders the ego and its preferences to the deepest perception of being as they have come to know it. Life will present many of us with choosing between truth or losing face, friendship, reputation, or status. Why choose truth? Our politicians from the left and the right demonstrate just how hard it is to choose truth instead of personal interest. They also demonstrate the cost of not choosing truth. Yet truth remains an optimizing orientation to being. Said otherwise, truth, what is so, frees the ego from its identifications and orients to a deeper experience of the mystery in which we all live and move and have our being. Now that's a quote from an article called Love of Truth, a Skill of Authentic Living. I'll just mention that's what authentic living is alignment with truth, right, goodness, morality, natural law, higher self, true self, higher will, all that is goodness. And that's the point of truth, and that's the point of natural law, and that's authentic living, and that's an integrated life. The last quote is, truth seeking requires that we grow beyond a sense of shame at discovering ourselves mistaken. We strive to replace this with acceptance or even pleasure that we can grow and that others can outgrow us. And that's from a website dealing with talking about truth seeking. And the pleasure they're talking about is the pleasure I get. The greatest joy, which I'll mention later in the article, in my catalyst, the greatest joy I've ever had in my life was awakening to the importance of truth and a greater attainment of certain aspects of truth, and gaining insight and expanding consciousness, evolving consciousness. It's the greatest joy for me. So to continue in the article, unfortunately, others often don't value truth, the care for truth, and we often do sacrifice truth in order to integrate into society and function with others. A slight stray from the norm at times in history has resulted in consequences against those deemed as, quote, offenders against the accepted beliefs perceived to be axioms of truth. So the quote, I have an image quote meme that goes along with the two quotes in text. Truth is the new hate speech. During times of universal deceit, telling the truth becomes a revolutionary act. That's from George Orwell. Another quote, the further a society drifts from truth, the more it will hate those that speak it. That's another quote by George Orwell. So now you can understand the bullshit and those that speak the bullshit like I do. Well, we get hated. People don't like to be told the shit that they're a part of, the wrongdoings they engage in, the harm that they perpetuate, participate, consent, and support in. They don't want to hear it. They just want to backlash, revolt, dismiss, deflect, invalidate, justify, excuse, reject the truth and what is good, right, moral. Truth is love. Love is truth. The reason I had, quote, love in quotes before was because of its broad use in modern language and how it shapes our perceptions of what is good, right, and true. I will explain a deeper understanding of love to modify the statement, truth is care / quote love, into becoming truth is love with a capital L. I want to distinguish between quote love with a lower L as the feelings of care, affection, friendship, etc., and love without quotes with a capital L as a force that expands consciousness, compared to fear as the force that contracts or constricts consciousness. A little side note, this has already been talked about in Consciousness and Polarity, one of my main topic articles. So some of this, some of you may be familiar with, especially since it's related to Mark Passio's information and understanding that he puts forth. I've just developed upon it and expounded on it, and I just understand it. I've made the correspondences necessary to get it. Now to continue. Love and fear are the two fundamental essences, emanations, or manifestations that underlie all emotional forces within us and are the primary causes or movers to all other emotional states and expressions. most people would agree that the underlying essence and creative force of what we perceive as uplifting, empowering, beneficial, and good is, quote, love. Normally the word love is thought of as care, affection, desire, devotion, fondness, infatuation, etc. Imagine a different way of seeing it. Is that really all that is good, beneficial, empowering, uplifting, etc.? Love is not that limited definition we are so accustomed to using. That of care, affection, desire, devotion, infatuation, all those things are not, those are limited definitions for the word. Try to envision love as the force that expands consciousness. Love, in this greater sense, is the force that magnifies, increases, grows, develops, and blossoms consciousness towards greater levels of awareness and comprehension of ourselves and the world we live in. To understand more of reality, what is truth is what allows us to expand our awareness of this reality and ourselves, and therefore consciousness evolves, and the force of love slash truth is more profound. Fear constricts and contracts consciousness. Fear is the absence of what is true. What is reality? The force of love. Fear exists from the choice to accept illusion, deception, manipulation, lies, and ignore what is reality, the truth. Fear puts consciousness in a grave. The less aware we are of reality, the less of a developed consciousness we will have. An immediate image comes to my mind of an infant who has yet to go through the necessary temporal experiential conditioning that brings about an increase in awareness of reality in which we are manifesting our thoughts, feelings, and actions. So the child, they don't have the consciousness of other people because they have a limited perception and awareness of reality. That's the analogy I'm making here. We use our five senses to make sense of our reality. If our senses and perceptions deceive us, then we will be building false foundational conceptions which we use as a basis for living our lives. Our experiences are influenced by our perceptions, which are also experienced. Our experiences are influenced by our perceptions, which are also influenced by conditions of our environment. False perceptions create false awareness. We can only increase our awareness effectively by perceiving reality as it truly is, getting at the truth. We do not increase our awareness effectively if we buy into and accept false conceptual frameworks upon which we base our thoughts, feelings, and actions. Only the truth of the reality in which we exist can lead us to increase our awareness and evolve consciousness. Hence, the truth is love. Love is truth. Love as the expansive force of consciousness is truth as the expansive force of consciousness. Love of truth is the truth of love. Love embraces truth. Fear rejects truth. Truth unites. Lies divide. Embrace truth. Care for truth. Here's a quote. Love, in its perfection, cannot help reaching out to improve others. And that's by Dr. Muhammad Iqbal. What it's saying is, love is about perfection. It's about improving others and improving ourselves. That's what love is. That's what correcting the bullshit in the world is. That's what correcting people's errors are. It's correcting the wrongs, our wrongdoings, our harm, the violence, everything that we're a part of, all that we do that's wrong. That's what love is. That's what the force of love is. That's what truth brings you to realize. Truth is love, love is truth. It's all the expansive force of consciousness. Anyways, I'll get more into that. So to continue. Embrace the truth/love. It will help you become a better version of yourself in line with values based on foundational principles. I, for one, can attest to this power of truth as love and love as truth. When I first had my catalyst to begin to care, to revive my care from its unbegun, uninitiated, deadened state, to care enough to become more aware of the world in which I lived in, it was the most alive I had ever felt in my life. Truth/love are/is the greatest force. It's the most uplifting and empowering force to align with. It brings goodness, rightness, morality, etc. This was and still is a process of admitting ignorance, admitting I was wrong, admitting I was fooled and deceived and manipulated and conned, and then seeking to alleviate those hindrances of my ignorance by gaining greater understanding of truth through increasing my conscious awareness. This is a great journey, the quest for knowledge and understanding, the path towards greater attainment of truth. This is the great work. It is what has given me the greatest meaning and joy. The quote love, or true care, with a capital C, for truth, is caring and seeking it out. As I gain greater understanding and insights, I am overjoyed by having another revelation of truth in my grasp. Casting aside illusions, deceptions, and lies is empowering. Love is the expansive force of consciousness. Love is truth. Truth is love. It is powerful to understand this. As we expand our consciousness through greater awareness of reality, what is the truth, the force of love is ever more present and becomes more of a driving force to truly care, to become more aware and understand more of the truth. We start to care more about ourselves, our health, what we are doing to ourselves, what we are doing to other animate beings, through our collective, co-created suffering we self-impose, and how this affects others just as much as it does ourselves. We expand our identification to view not only our family, town, city, province or state, country or nation, and the people of the planet as important, but then also other non-human animals, other sentient, animate beings we live amongst and share this earth with. Our increased awareness and recognition of our similarities and differences can bring us closer towards comprehending these truths and embodying and becoming the qualities and values we say we want to uphold and live by. Becoming more aware and expanding consciousness involves looking at ourselves and the world in truth and honesty without fear of what we find out. We have to recognize what our actions are doing, admit we are wrong, and take responsibility for what we are doing by changing our actions instead of remaining in denial by creating justification, excuses, and rationalizations to remain attached to our illusions and defend our current behavioral conditioning and continue to, quote, feel good about ourselves. Understanding love, as defined by these words and what they mean, explains what this powerful force truly is. Love is truth. Truth is love. Love is the force that drives us and the force that increases in us when we are aligned with truth, not falsehood. Being responsible for our actions in self-governance, self-rulership, self-ownership, self-dominion, sovereignty, etc., united in our three aspects of consciousness, which are thoughts, emotions, and actions, not in internal opposition, conflict, or confusion from contradictions, doublethink, or cognitive dissonance we hold on to. Increasing consciousness through awareness of reality. Truth, what is, increases the force of love and fuels us to even greater heights of understanding. It is a feedback loop as long as one stays on the path of the spiritual journey, on the path of truth, doing the great work. We truly care enough to seek the truth, reality, what is, becoming more aware of it, thereby evolving consciousness, which increases the force of love. This increase in the force of love, which is greater consciousness, fuels us to care, to understand more about the reality within and without, and continuing to feed itself to higher comprehension of the world and ourselves. People want to object to this understanding because they want to believe that no matter what their actions speak about themselves, they want to continue to believe whatever they want in contradiction to how they actually are manifesting and living, to not take responsibility for their actions by avoiding admitting the truth about themselves. This is internal opposition, conflict, contradiction, non-integration, non-unification, non-coherence, and division of the self. It is much easier to remain in denial and be comfortable and, quote, feel good about one's choices, decisions, actions, behaviors, and habits. That way, there is no need to admit our mistakes, admit we are doing wrong, and change anything about what we are doing, since everything is fine and dandy in the lies and fantasy we tell ourselves. There is a psychological term for this called reality negotiation that I briefly wrote about, and I provided a link in the article. Ye shall know them by their actions. Actions speak louder than words. The more you say, the more you do, the more I see of you. Observation is powerful. If you claim to be a certain way, yet you live in opposition to that, you are in internal opposition and not in unity consciousness. It is simple to understand. The New Age and other pseudo-spiritual fluffy puff mind viruses allow people to believe contradictory things about themselves by engaging in doublethink and cognitive dissonance to validate how they want to view themselves in contradiction to reality, what is, and truth of their expressions of consciousness. Believing you are a, quote, good person that does no harm, is pure-hearted, follows your heart and feelings, promotes love and light, non-violence and such, but yet engages in behaviors that contradict your beliefs about yourself, is not a balanced consciousness. It is internal contradiction and oppositional duality by not being in alignment with truth/love. It's not love, but a fear-based consciousness afraid to look at oneself honestly. To be united in oneself means to be in alignment with truth, not the fantasy lies of comfort that validate our current behavior and condition of comfort. So here's a quote for the next paragraph, another image meme. Love is not a feeling. It is a spiritual energy. Love is pure creative energy at its highest level. Love expressed in human form actualizes your divine self. Now, pay attention to this quote because it's going to come back later. Just remember how it's not a feeling, which I've already pretty much talked about. I've explained the ambiguity of this term and how it's lost complete meaning in our society, this word love, lower L in quotes. So keep in mind that it's not a feeling, it's actually a spiritual energy, it's a force, which I've already talked about. I'm already talking about it. The opposite force is fear, which constricts, contracts, and makes you unconscious. That's love is related to consciousness. Love, true love, the real definition of love is not related to all these sensational feelings that we like to attribute and reference with the word, quote, love. So just to be clear, remember, it's not a feeling, it's an energy, it's a force, creative energy at the highest level, and it actualizes your divine self. Now this is going to relate to people saying, oh, it's judgmental, and oh, it's offensive, oh, it's insulting. All these things are emotional mind control, and we're going to get into that later. So the quote, love is not a feeling, it is a spiritual energy. Love is pure creative energy at its highest level. Love expressed in human form actualizes your divine self. That's a quote by Barbara King. Here's the rest of the article. The illusory force that goes against love seeks to do the opposite of expanding consciousness by closing down consciousness and restricting awareness. Fear is the compressive force that makes us not want to look, seek, become more aware, understand, care with a capital C, or act. Fear closes our eyes, minds, and hearts from looking into what really is there. It prevents us from discovering the truth we don't want to face about ourselves and the reality around us. Fear strangles the blossoming flower of consciousness. Fear inhibits accurate conscious awareness and perceptual alignment with what is right, good, true, moral, natural law, true self, higher will, etc., and prevents us from uniting, embodying, and becoming that which we profess to be. So that's what the quote from Barbara King was talking about. It's the highest creative energy. It actualizes our divine self. When you align with truth/love, it's aligning with what is right, good, true, moral, natural law, true self, higher will. This is the divine self. That's who we truly are. And you can know that by knowing what is right, by knowing what is good, by knowing what is true. When you quote love/care for truth, recognize its value and seek to embody truth, goodness, rightness, morality, natural law, higher self, higher will, etc. This is part of the expansive force of love. Love, understood as the expansive force of consciousness, is based in truth. Truth brings us the force of love. Love and truth bring us true care/quote love for other beings. So when I say quote love/care or care/quote love, that's care and love, lowercase love, the care, affection, emotive drive of love, small l, not the higher concept of love as the expansive force of consciousness, which is truth and all that. I just want to make that clear. So, truth is love, love is truth, truth unites, lies divide, embrace truth, care for truth. So here's some more quotes. There is a place in us that loves to know the truth, that wants, values, and appreciates the truth. Only inquiry inspired by this love can serve the functions of activation and transformation. If we inquire out of love to know the truth, our inquiry will naturally disclose the truth that we love to know. We all need to inquire into our own hearts to see if there is a place in us that really loves to know the truth, where we love it enough to do whatever we can to inquire, to investigate. This loving to know the truth is nothing but the response of our being to its own dynamism. The dynamism is revealing something new, and it manifests initially as the soul's interest in discovering the truth for its own sake. So already you can see this relating to previous quotes, and how truth love, aligning with truth is aligning with love, what is right, what is good, what is moral, what is natural law, the true self, the higher will. That's this being. It's the soul. It's our interest in what is good and true. That's what the infiniteness of what is goodness. The higher self, higher will is all goodness. That's in the polarity of love and fear. Love is what is. Fear is the absence of love. Fear doesn't exist. It's only an absence of. The same as with truth and falsehood, truth and untruth. Truth is what is. It's only absence of truth that creates lies. Good is what is. It's only the absence of goodness that creates evil and bad. We are the ones that create bad because we are not aligned with what is true, with what is love, with what is good, with what is right, with what is moral, with the true self, the higher will, God, all, source, singularity, mind, mental, whatever you want to call it. It's all the same thing. It all represents the absoluteness of good, the absoluteness of truth, the absoluteness of love. So our being is that, and it's up to us to align with that being, that dynamism that's there, and discover and have an interest in discovering the truth, because that's what our true self is. That's what our higher self is. That's what the higher will is. It's nothing but truth. It's nothing but love. It's nothing but good. It's what is. There's a difference between the what is that manifests evil and that has good and horror and beauty and horror and positive and negative in our world. There's the good, there's the truth that things are happening, wars, but it's not the truth that those things are what is right, good, and true, moral, in alignment with natural law, true self, and higher will. There's many different degrees and correspondences, correlations, interconnections, and pattern linkage that we can do, but it's not just blind correspondence and just applying things willy-nilly. You got to really understand how these things work. So I'll get back to the quotes. If we inquire into the energy of the optimizing force, we find that it is love. That's right. What is beneficial. I'll restart the quote, but just to speak on optimizing. What's optimal, what's best, what's an improvement, what is better, what is correct, what is accurate. All that is love, good, true, higher will, higher self, all that. It's all the same. So I'll restart the quote. The previous quote was from a book called Spaceship Inquiry, page 54. So the quote I was reading: if we inquire into the energy of the optimizing force, we find that it is love. Love is a creative energy that disposes the dynamism to move in an optimizing way. This makes love the fuel of inquiry and points to a very clear relationship between love and the revelation of truth. When we love the truth for its own sake, we truly love. So again, he's talking about dynamism again. So that dynamic to move towards that creative energy of love instead of the constrictive energy of fear, and move in an optimizing way, move in a beneficial way, in a better way, in an improved way, in a healed way, in a purified way, in a transmuted way, in a sublimated way. We're going to get into those alchemical terms shortly. So this love of inquiry of truth brings you revelations of truth. If you don't love truth, if you don't care for truth, the true care, the quote love for truth, then you're not going to find truth. You're going to think you have truth and you're going to think you understand things, but you don't. Because you don't love, you don't care for truth. Care for truth is the most important thing because that's what brings you truth. If you don't give a shit about truth, you're not going to get it. And that's by A.H. Almaas, that quote. The next quote before we continue on the paragraphs of the article is, "In the end, we return to the question, just how much do you love truth? Do you really love truth, or are you just curious? Do you love it enough to rebuild your understanding to conform to a reality that doesn't fit your current beliefs and doesn't feel 120% happy? Do you love truth enough to continue seeking even when it hurts, when it reveals aspects of yourself or human society or the universe that are shocking, complex, and disturbing, or humbling, glorious, and amazing, or even when truth is far beyond human mind itself?" Just how much do we love truth? It's a good question to ask ourselves, I think. And that's a quote by Scott Mandelker. True care / quote love for truth is about facing the beauty and horror, positive and negative, light and dark, in the world and in ourselves. Care for truth brings about the inner work of facing our shadow, darkness, demons, and negative. These are aspects of ourselves that we come to recognize do not suit us in a positive way. How do we do that? Well, through truth, through expanding conscious awareness, evolving consciousness, etc. And may indeed be causing us or other beings harm, and perpetuating self-inflicted suffering on a collective scale. Inner work is that of facing the shadow, negative, wrongdoings, and evil we consent to support or participate in. We have shadow aspects to our being. The shadow is what we are currently being, but we try to deny, avoid, excuse, and justify, etc., that we are being that way. We have to admit we are wrong, fooled, tricked, conned, hoodwinked, bamboozled, uninformed, duped, misled, deceived, manipulated, lied to, and mind-controlled into negative manifestation in reality. We have to accept this. That is the hard work people do not want to be honest about and face with true self-respect, to look back at ourselves again and again in the mirror. It is facing what our expressions of consciousness manifest in reality. We are responsible for what we do, what actions we take, and the behaviors we consciously or unconsciously engage in. Truth is the only path to self-transformation. Transmuting, sublimating, purifying, healing, changing, correcting, bettering, improving, evolving, embodying, and becoming more of those values, foundational principles of truth, and morality of natural law. Once we face ourselves in honesty and self-respect, we can develop the courage and willpower to change in alignment with what we recognize is right, good, and true. This is embodying and becoming an aspect of truth, rightness, goodness, morality, natural law, and the values based on these foundational principles. There was a image meme for that paragraph. It is, people can't change the truth, but the truth can change people. And that's if people choose to align with it. It's super simple once you understand. It's so simple, all of this. But it takes a lot of correspondences and understanding to develop it. Most people who've gone through Mark Passio's information already understand this. Maybe some people understand it to lesser degrees than others and haven't embodied certain aspects of truth and natural law as much as they can. So to continue with the next paragraph, we have an image quote meme to start it off. Sometimes you just have to die a little inside in order to be reborn and rise again as a stronger and wiser version of you. So, once we face ourselves in full honesty and continued self-respect, recognize the wrongdoings we are a part of, we develop the self, quote, love / self-care to truly care about changing ourselves for the better, evolving our consciousness and the manifestations we put out into the world we collectively co-create. The shadow inner work is the phoenix burning up and dying. It is dying inside, in our inner being. That includes part of our ego personality identity construct. From those ashes, the phoenix is reborn anew. The ashes are the deconstruction, dissolution, disintegration, and disassembly of all that we have as identification and association with our concept of self. All that we associate and identify as who we are, all the actions and behaviors we identify with. So this includes everything we do bad. That's part of this process. To continue. This is the process of sublimation, transmutation, and purification. From the ashes, the phoenix is reconstituted, reconstructed, rebirthed, resurrected, and rebuilt anew, changed, better, and improved. The false belief in lies, deceptions, and illusions we used as a basis for our identity, ego, personality construct have been shattered, destroyed, and dissolved, and not taken back into the reassembly of the new version of you. We can continually do this over and over. The ego, personality, identity construct for interaction in reality can be reconditioned and reprogrammed to align with our higher self, higher will, universal, cosmic, natural, moral law, what is right, good, and true. I provided a link to my article on universal, cosmic, natural, moral law based on Mark Passio's teachings. Recognize truth as it is. See the truth about our actions and behavior and what they actually manifest in reality. Stop engaging in foolishness and change for the better towards the wisdom of right action. This is a lot of continual work that many people do only do part of and think that is enough. If you have a quote, here I have a quote from Mark Passio, What on Earth is Happening, podcast 112. In the Gnostic Gospel, Jesus said that if you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. If we bring forth the inner self, we will save ourselves. This is all about self-respect, making a connection to the higher self. If we don't do this, we will be doomed. We aren't dealing with our inner self, our psychic garbage, the shadow self, the demon side of self. and it will come back to bite us. We have to deal with our own darkness and negativity. It cannot just be brushed off repeatedly and not dealt with, not looked at. This is what a lot of the New Age movement wants. Never look at the negative as if that draws more to you. The problem is people are not dealing with the negative that exists within them and trying to transmute it into something more positive, to work with the shadow material and eventually integrate it so that it is not ruling you. You can have it be there, but continuously be making a free will decision to conquer it, to be better than that shadow self, that lower self. We all have lower instincts of the lower mind, but we need to make a continual renewal within ourselves to be better than those lower instincts every day of our life so that we recognize they are there and not ignore them. The instincts are present, but we do not let them rule us. Anyone saying that this is not important work to do is a deceiver, whether they know it or not. So again, that's Mark Passio, What on Earth is Happening, podcast 112. Anyone who wants to ignore, deny, avoid, dismiss, deflect, justify, or excuse the wrongdoings and evil they are a part of is also a deceiver, whether they know it or not. They are already deceiving themselves, and then they spew their bullshit onto others and expect them to buy into their lies, self-deceptions, and self-delusions. No more bullshit. The ego personality identity construct is a conditioned program that is grafted. Wait a second. Oh yeah, before I read Mark's quote, I forgot to read an image meme quote. Sorry about that. So it's, that which can be destroyed by the truth should be. So that's what transmutation, sublimating, purifying, changing, healing, bettering, optimizing, all of that has to do with shattering, destroying the bullshit, lies, deceptions, and illusions, because the truth can and should do that. That's the only way towards truth, love, freedom, peace, prosperity, order, goodness, all that. The only way is with truth. There are so many excuses people come up with in emotional mind control to invalidate the truth they don't want to hear. So back to the paragraph, back to the article. Anyone who wants to deny, avoid, dismiss, deflect, justify, or excuse the wrongdoings and evil they are a part of is also a deceiver, whether they know it or not. They are already deceiving themselves, and then they spew their bullshit onto others and expect them to buy into their lie. Self-deceptions, into their lies, self-deceptions, and self-delusions. No more bullshit. I already read this one. Sorry. The ego personality identity construct is a conditioned program that is grafted or ingrained in us from childhood by those who have had the same effects imposed on them, our parents and the rest of society. At some point, the unadulterated, unpoisoned, pure thinking was degraded by someone or some people adopting false concepts which later grew into more tendencies away and ways of thinking, behaving and acting which were rooted in an illusory mindset and perception. The programs and conditioning are clever lies to deceive, manipulate, and lead away from truth into negative ego manifestation and self-created suffering. These are the illusions that people are sold and buy into and become an ingrained mind virus belief which leads them away from a more peaceful, honest, truthful, and integrated and authentic living experience. All of these constructs of false erroneous belief are based on deception and are therefore non-extant illusions at their core. Even if we are manifesting and creating them into reality, they are based on falsity, not truth. that is to say, illusions. Lies fabricate and manufacture illusions to keep us enslaved. Truth is based on the reality of what is and grants us freedom. So when I mention the deceptions and lies and illusions, they're non-existent at their core because they don't exist. They only exist because of a lack of truth, a lack of love, a lack of good, a lack of natural law, a lack of morality. And this I've all explained, and this is part of my articles on the conceptual framework for understanding reality and the truth frequency, the truth and the alignment of our frequencies of perceptions and how that relates to the conceptual framework for understanding reality. Anyways, those articles are linked at the end of this article. It'll help you understand how I understand things, how I evolve my consciousness and understand the interrelatedness and interconnectedness of things in the universe. So to continue with the article, the last paragraph before the next section. When we go within and do the inner work on ourselves, bit by bit the attachment to the various aspects of the illusions we hold on to are released and we become more free. As we learn to sublimate and transmute our conditioned and false thoughts, beliefs, habits, behaviors and actions and desires, we become more free from these imposed illusions, and our participation in the negative ego personality identity illusion is also lessened. It takes time, effort, dedication, persistence, and renewal of the path chosen to maintain awareness of the falsity of these illusions and keep them from remanifesting by our acceptance and belief in their existence. Being able to let go of these illusory attachments is based on our ability to perceive and recognize them first, to be aware of them. The more we are able to see within and without, the more we can let go of. The more we let go, the more we end up seeing. Each illusory veil hides greater understanding, and when we drop a particular veil of illusion, we then see more uncovered in terms of the reality of what is truth, and also more veils are discovered and seen that we were unaware of previously. And so the journey progresses towards more revelation, towards the apocalypse of the reality within and without. Embodying and becoming truth, love in our world. By moving through each positive expression of the generative force of love, we arrive at the manifestation of order or everything we recognize and experience as good. Truth/love brings forward freedom, order, peace, harmony, and goodness. Love expands consciousness. Contrarily, using the force of fear to generate our experience through ignorance, confusion, and attempting to externally control others is the current condition we have manifested known as chaos or evil. Fear contracts consciousness. Fear puts consciousness into a grave. This condition can be changed by helping people to understand natural law principles. And there's a link there to my natural law article. Using the positive generative polarity does not create any of the negative expressions. The ever-expansive force of consciousness known as love or truth can only create positive expressions. Embodying truth/love and expanding conscious awareness does not foster ignorance. Developing knowledge does not create internal confusion. Becoming a sovereign, uniting your thoughts, emotions, and actions in unison, and aligning with greater degrees of truth, does not create external control. Living in freedom of anarchy and the personal responsibility of self-governance and self-rulership does not manifest as chaos in the world. Believing we are generating from the force of love/truth while we actually manifest ignorance, internal opposition, and confusion or attempt to impose external control on others is an indication that we are actually generating from the force of fear, which is a contraction of consciousness and limitation of knowledge and understanding. Desiring control, being in an internal opposition and confusion with oneself or the truth, and willfully ignoring the truth are due to a lack of attaining certain truths that would bring one to an understanding of the importance of aligning with truth and what manifests as a result of that alignment. Employing a particular generative force will create the relative expressions with respect to that force and not the opposite. These are polarized principles because they work in mutually exclusive ways. This is how natural law and life function. Understanding this deeply will resonate with our core being, and we will recognize the veracity of natural law and how it operates in our daily life to manifest the conditions we experience. This is the real law of attraction, not the New Age one as espoused in garbage films like The Secret, where you only have to imagine something and then it will manifest. That is not the way it works, but so many people have bought into the New Age feel good, believe whatever you want deception. Actions and behaviors seem to fly out the window in terms of importance to those who want to deny their involvement in wrong and bullshit that keeps us from going forward in evolving consciousness together. They want to play their little mind games, use some flawed foundational premises for, quote, logical conclusions and other absurdities that are not founded on principles of truth by which to base right action upon and live our lives according to. Choosing to align ourselves with the expansive force of consciousness, which is love and truth, is how we manifest what is right, good, and true, which is what we should want to create instead of our current condition resulting from fear, ignorance, confusion, and control. Love embraces truth. Fear rejects truth. Evolving consciousness is embracing truth and caring for truth. Increasing our conscious awareness expands our consciousness and our embodiment of love/truth. Truth leads to greater, quote, love/care to expand and evolve consciousness through acquiring more truth that continues to expand that force that feeds back on itself to perpetually grow and evolve as long as we have the will to do so and choose to remain in alignment with that force, in embodiment with that force, in connection with that force. Like I said before, it's not a real communication. You're not having a conversation like you would with me. It's not a channeling like the law of one and these other things. Okay, it's different. So to continue, the Kybalion expresses this understanding in similar words as well, describing it in aspects of alchemical transmutation. I'm talking about the alignment, the becoming, the embodying, the exemplifying, the living by example, living what is right, good, true, moral, natural law, love, higher will, higher self, true self. So this is what the Kybalion has to say. And it is this fact that enables the hermetist to transmute one mental state into another, along the lines of polarization. Things belonging to different classes cannot be transmuted into each other, but things of the same class may be changed, that is, may have their polarity changed. Just to interject, this relates to the dualistic conceptual framework for understanding reality, the frequency of truth, love, good. These things I've been writing about that relate to truth as good. Truth is love, love is truth. Articles at the end of are linked at the end of this article. You can look into them. That's what the plane is. This class is the plane of truth, and the polarity is truth, love, good, or the absence of truth, love, good, which degenerates into untruth, falsity, wrongness, fear, bad, evil. That's how it happens, is when we're not in alignment with what is, with one pole, with the one class, the one plane that exists. When we lose that alignment, that embodiment, then we degenerate into the other polarity. So you can change things as long as your dualistic conceptual framework is valid and you're actually comparing things that belong to the same class. You know, hot and cold, same class. Hot is the thing that is, cold is the absence. Light and dark, they belong to the same class. Anyways, the second part of the quote, I'll just reread the quote. And it is this fact that enables the Hermetist to transmute one mental state into another along the lines of polarization. Things belonging to different classes cannot be transmuted into each other, but things of the same class may be changed, that is, may have their polarity changed. And it will also be noticed that even those unfamiliar with the principles of vibration, the positive pole seems to be of a higher degree than the negative and readily dominates it. The tendency of nature is in the direction of the dominant activity of the positive pole. So nature, natural law, what is all towards not nature as in environmental nature. We're talking about the nature of universal cosmicness, of universal cosmic natural moral law. The direction of things is to go towards that positive pole of truth, love, goodness, rightness, morality, natural law, true self, higher will, etc. So that's from the Kybalion. And it's I didn't write the page because my version of PDF is different from yours, and I could go to my book and take a page out of that book, but the book's a different publishing. Anyways, it's in the principle of polarity section, if you want to read it. Continuing on after the quote. Note the class aspect that is mentioned is what I am talking about in the dualistic conceptual framework represented by the frequency of truth, love, good, etc. for understanding and navigating reality. And there's 2 links there to the 2 articles. Dualities are polarities. Class is what is being used as a basis for measurement, i.e., truth, good, love, etc. There are various degrees of truth and less of the truth in the form of falsity, wrong, etc. We are the ones putting out the falsity, lies, and delusions. We create it. It doesn't naturally exist. Please read what I wrote about this framework to understand more of what I am talking about, and it will also create more correspondences and connections for a bigger whole picture holistic understanding. 2 links are there, and the 2 links are provided at the end of the article as well. We have the choice to align with varying degrees of love or fear. This determines the quality of our collective shared experience as we co-create and manifest in reality through the totality of our actions, behaviors, and ways of being of each individual. This is the real way we create our reality that we choose to live in, not the New Age notion that you yourself create your own world reality and can manifest whatever you want or wish. Truth is always truth, no matter what the false beliefs and perceptions someone has about what is reality. Real eyes realize real lies. Aligning perceptions with reality is right, good, and true and expands consciousness, the force of love. Trying to be a, quote, God, to force reality to conform to our erroneous belief constructs is false, wrong, and leads to badness created by ourselves, such as the current collective condition of the beings living on our planet. We did it to ourselves. We all experience and perceive reality in varying degrees of relative similarity and difference to identify and recognize what is, but at the core of it all is the same thing, the truth. What is reality? Only it is being viewed from different angles. This does not mean all perceptions are valid and true. We have two realities in our current manifested experience in the universe. The manifestation of the universe as it is, and that of conceptual frameworks and belief constructs to evaluate, assess, discern, and judge what we are experiencing in the first reality that exists apart from us. Our way of perceiving, the way we live and operate in the 3D physical reality, is shaped by how we perceive ourselves and the external world and others. If we are manipulated into accepting and buying into lies and deceptions, then our way of looking at ourselves and the world will be altered from alignment with an accurate perception of reality as it truly is. We create illusions of fantasy to live in. This is some serious magic of mind control going on. Our course in life is then being guided by unseen hands manipulating our consciousness because we are ignorant of how we function and ignorant of the importance of aligning with truth and natural law principles. The way that we can individually create our own reality is with relation to the second reality manifestation I was talking about above, when we accept degrees of fantasy illusions based on deceptions and falsehood. That is called a reality bubble of living in a make-believe world of believing whatever we want or wish to be true. Solipsism is home to that modality of consciousness and is not based in reality and the truth of what is. That is inventing our own reality that only we ourselves can break free from, because only we are the ones who accept the beliefs that shape our way of perceiving things. These are self-imposed delusions. They are ultimately self-imposed chains that prevent us from facing the truth of reality, instead preferring to feel good and comfortable about our current way of living based in deceptions. None of this changes the actual objective reality that exists. Alignment with reality is the key. Not attempting to force reality to comply with our perceived notions and concepts of how we want or wish things to be, but acting in the wisdom of right action to manifest the change and betterment that can be. So I've included two images about the truth and frequency of perceptions from a side view along the X or Z axis. Anyways, it's a side view where you see the plane flat. And this is based on Mark Passio's frequency of perception illustration. I've added my own explanation. I've redone the work. It looks prettier. I've also created a bridge between that understanding and what I term the dualistic conceptual framework to understand and navigate reality, which is a continuum spectrum, scalar degrees in the frequency of truth, love, or good. So this is a tilted down view of all of the frequencies, instead of having them lined up one on top of the other as a cross section with the plane repeating. It's putting the plane all on one level, and then you can see where the frequencies align. As the frequencies, I'll create another show where I'm supposed to go through this with other images. Anyway, just a quick description. The color of the frequency is because of the contact with the quality of truth. So quality truth is represented by the higher frequency, by the blue. Lower quality truth is in the red. So when your frequency is lower, the amount of quality truth you have available is limited, And so your frequency will be very low and slow. Your interaction with that lack of truth in the red will create a red frequency. And that's where the interactions with the plane of truth happen in the previous picture. And the opposite of the blue. When you're in higher quality truth, well, your perceptions are more in alignment with higher quality important truths, and your frequency will become like that frequency. So the blue, the higher frequency perceptions align with higher frequency truth in the blue, and therefore your frequency turns blue. It becomes a higher frequency. Your frequency is your frequency of consciousness. You will have a higher frequency of consciousness when your frequency of perceptions align with the frequency of truth. And then you embody the color blue, which is a representation of becoming that truth, that love, that good that you have come to recognize and align with. The connections on the plane where the frequency crosses and connects and interacts and makes contact, that's representative of the embodiment with truth, your alignment and unity and harmony with it. Anyways, maybe I should just do a whole separate recording on that and explain about 10 pictures to see how I came to understand this. But to continue with the article, sorry about that. Our task is to bring ourselves, our perceptions, into alignment with truth. What is reality? Having a high frequency of alignment, such as increasing the frequency of a small sound until it develops a proper tone, is to turn a low frequency into a proper tone with atonement. So atonement is at one ment, at one ment, mind, at one mind, uniting and reconciling ourselves with the truth, to be truly unified, harmonized, integrated, etc., with our true higher self, higher will, natural law, etc. So I've been talking about the whole time. Truth is one thing, the essence that is and permeates all, while the lack and absence of truth is lies, falsity, evil, etc. In the frequency spectrum, the truth is the middle point in the oscillation of the wave. So the wave goes up and down. In the red frequency, low frequency, it goes up and down, up and down, up and down. And where it crosses the plane of truth, well, that's in the center of the frequency. So you can see that in the images. Where it makes contact, where your frequency of perceptions, your perceptual ability to recognize and align with truth, is represented by a frequency, and when this frequency contacts the plane of truth, that's in the center of the frequency. And that's the only thing to say about the center of the frequency. Green does not represent balance. It's just a midpoint, okay? Balance is balance is a word I don't like to often use. I only see it valid in certain cases, such as balancing and uniting the left and right brain, balancing and uniting our heart and mind. But that's about it. I don't even view balance as an accurate term to say we're balancing our thoughts, emotions, and actions. No, you're uniting them. Balancing has different connotations. You can balance good and evil. So let's do as much evil as we do good. Yay! Let's balance truth and lies. Let's lie as much as we tell the truth. Yay! No. Balance is a totally manipulated word in the New Age movement. It's often used to indicate moral relativism and all this other bullshit. I don't like to use it often. I just want to indicate that green does not indicate balance here. It's just in between red and blue. We're using the spectrum of the color spectrum frequencies to represent perceptions, frequencies of perception and frequencies of truth, okay? So don't be mixing correspondences and mixing things in and, oh, the heart chakra is green and green is balance, and oh, blah, 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 someone said this and Mark Passio said that. You got to learn to distinguish, separate Similarities, differences. That's what my dualistic conceptual framework is trying to explain. You can't just blindly apply correspondences. It doesn't work that way. Green is just the middle point in these pictures, okay? It's not the ideal to strive for. Continuing on with the article. Truth is absolute. It is extreme. It is one way. Now, if we look at the term absolute, Mark Passio has also described this. So absolute, from the prefix ab, which is away from, and solute is a substance that must be dissolved in a solvent in order to create a solution. So you can see how this relates to alchemy. So absolute is away from a solid substance. It's going away from a solid substance. That's what absolute means. The solvent that dissolves the substance, the solid, comes from the Latin solve, which is to release, unbind, untie, free, open. The solvent is to release, unbind, untie, free and open the mind from illusions, deceptions, and lies. A solution has a solid or solute and a solvent. The two things we were just looking at in absolute and solvent. So a not solute and the solvent. The solute is the calcified solid substance that you are going to dissolve with a solvent to create a solution. We are trying to dissolve a hard thing, the calcified beliefs of the hard-headed ego personality identity construct. Then the solvent that is capable of dissolving the ego is truth. Truth, love, good, natural law, all that. That's what the solvent is that dissolves the solute substance, calcified ego. The solvent is the acceptance, alignment, and speaking of truth, and the refusal to accept evil and wrongdoings that we or others support, consent to, and participate in. That is what dissolves the negative ego hold on our lives. Apophasis is saying no to harm, wrong, evil, etc. And also learning what something is by learning what it isn't. Recognizing that what we do doesn't create peace, freedom, morality, etc. And therefore recognizing that what we do creates suffering and harm instead. And then having the courage and will to let go of the attachment to creating harm and not doing that harm anymore. The apophatic process is looking at the negative and admitting it in order to change for the better. Now we're on to the hard truth. A hard truth. Can you face your shadow with honesty? The starting image quote meme is, "It's hard to accept the truth when the lies were exactly what you wanted to hear." I have not encountered a truth that is harder for people to accept than this. People can accept the truth about money, the government, our condition of indentured servitude and slavery, etc. But many people can't face the hard, uncomfortable, harsh truth of what they participate in, support, and consent to in all facets of life, action, behavior, and being. Many people cannot face their actions with full honesty and accurate alignment of their perceptions with the reality of what is the truth. People think they have done the shadow work. And it is true that they may have done some shadow work, but they have not gone far enough. They behave like tent pitchers on the path of truth, thinking they have acquired enough and don't need to continue on the path. These are tent pitchers of the alignment with truth. 10 pictures of doing the inner work to embody the truth that is recognized and cared for, so that we live by example, embody, and become those truths and values we say we uphold. I speak of those who come up with excuses and justifications to create, invent, and fabricate wrongs into rights. I speak of those who believe our actions of wrongdoings and evil are limited to human animate beings alone. I speak of those who can't face their consent, support, and participation in the enslavement, exploitation, harm, suffering, violence, and murder of other non-human animals, beings that have a form or degree of anima animus. They are animate. That is where the word animal comes from. They are animate like us. I speak to those who create illusions of, quote, logic about plants equating to animals, imitating animal behavior, imitating cavemen behavior, and other fallacious constructs of comparison. They do this because they are desperately holding on to straws they view as solid foundations or pillars of proof for them to hold onto. And as long as they can defend those single few possessions, they can continue to conceive of themselves as being in the, quote, right, when they are in the wrong, in violation of natural law morality. Their attachment to these few details that they spin and misconstrue in their minds is what prevents them from gaining holistic, big picture understanding of the issue. They can't let go of the attachment on many levels. They believe in these fantasy constructs because they remain attached to lies, deceptions, and delusions, and cannot face themselves honestly to recognize and let go of them. This false, quote, logic inhibits perceptual alignment with truth and greater holistic understanding of the accurate correspondence and correlation of reality. They are not using true logic because their data set, the information they conceive of as accurate knowledge, is a limited pool that negates foundational principles of truth based in natural law morality. It becomes a poisoned data pool. So here I have an image of Mark's dual explanation of the pure and poison in our food and the pure and poison of the information we input and output and process to create our world through the natural law manifestations of the expressions of our consciousness. Continuing with the article, it works the same way that time and attention on quality information works to produce quality living and being in the world, as Mark Passio has depicted to the right. Divergence from foundational principles of truth will lead one astray from accurate understanding. The data set or perceptions and vision being processed for understanding of reality is ignoring, denying, and rejecting basic core foundationals. I'll reread that. The data set or perceptions and vision being processed for understanding of reality is ignoring, denying, and rejecting basic core foundations of truth, and therefore limits the construction of additional truthful conceptions because they are being built upon the faulty foundational understanding of reality. This creates a poisoned data pool. Our ways of living, of being, and our actions will be built on a false path. Our ways of living, of being, and our actions will be on a false path that diverges from core foundational principles of truth. A data set provides for conclusions that are based on the data you accept and reject. When you reject foundational principles of truth, or don't know them, that is a limited and poisoned dataset pool for you to base an understanding upon. The more quality consciousness, awareness, the more quality conscious awareness of truth and reality, the larger the quality, quote, pure data set is, and the more accurate your understanding will be about various things. Rejection of foundational principles of truth based in natural law morality will not provide you with accurate understanding of reality and will limit holistic, bigger picture understanding. Many left brain imbalanced and right brain imbalanced people have not accepted natural law for what it truly is and prefer to limit their perceptual alignment with truth by negating, dismissing, deflecting, etc. The enslavement, exploitation, harm, violence, and murder being carried out in their name against other animate sentient beings. The negation and rejection of truth works for both left and right brain imbalanced consciousness. Here are two quotes. The biggest threat to an animal is not the slaughter worker, nor the furrier, or vivisectionist. The biggest threat is you, the consumer. That's by Lola Rain, that quote. Another quote, compassion is ethical intelligence. It is the capacity to make connections and the consequent urge to act to relieve the suffering of others. So ethical intelligence, morality, natural law, holistic thinking, intelligence, the intellect, and the generative force, as Mark Passio likes to put it. True intelligence, not flawed intelligence. To making connections, correspondences, pattern recognition, seeing the networking and interlinking and interconnectedness of things. And that's a quote by, sorry, that was my explanation, but the quote before one sentence was by Will Tuttle, and he's a vegetarian for 35 years, vegan for 30 or something. He's got a great video, The World Peace Diet. Everything makes sense. Anyways, once you get it, you get it. If you don't get it, you don't get it, and you need to learn. On we go with this hard truth people don't want to face. You are the one paying for the enslavement, exploitation, harm, violence, and murder. You are the one paying someone else to engage in wrong action instead of you engaging in that wrong action. Want non-violence in the world? Want non-aggression in the world? Want peace? Want compassion? It starts by pointing the finger at yourself and looking at your life honestly to see how you are participating, supporting, and consenting to harm, violence, enslavement, murder, and what is wrong, bad, false, etc. Do you want what is right, good, and true? Then stop creating the opposite. You have the power if you choose to take personal responsibility for yourself, your choices, and actions. Purchasing something is a creative act. It creates what you purchase. Do you want to create truth, love, freedom, peace? Or do you want to keep creating lies, fear, slavery, and conflict? It might take some time, effort, and energy to figure this out if you don't already understand it. But if you want to understand it, you can. That is, if you are being honest with yourself. The choice is yours. It is very empowering to change for what is right, good, and true. The power is not in the butcher, but in the hands of those who pay. Through the creative act, through the creative active power that the false spiritual one-eye proxy of money has in our lives to have humans create things. We pay for an action to take place. It's a creative act. That is how all purchases work. In this case, it is payment for death, murder, violence, harm, enslavement, and exploitation. This is the deep truth people do not want to face because they are engaging in it. They cannot face themselves honestly in true self-respect. Their level of consciousness is self-descriptive by their own expressions of consciousness. All we have to do is recognize truth, and everything else reveals itself before us. People reveal themselves through their expressions of consciousness. Our only requirement is to perceive accurately, align perceptions with reality, truth. Many people lie to themselves about how, quote, spiritual they are. But they are only pseudo-spiritual, confused about things, lacking proper, accurate knowledge to understand reality and themselves correctly, believing in, quote, feel-good illusions, etc. Many people think they are not participating in evil. They don't have any faults or any problems that need correcting. Everything is the way it should be. Their life is perfect, etc. Many people think they are smart and, quote, intelligent, while only using their intellect and limited data set for logical conclusions, for, quote, logical conclusions, and not seeing the bigger picture, holding on to the certain specific, quote, facts to, quote, prove they are not engaged in any wrongdoing. Many people think they have done the work, and anyone telling them that they are still participating in evil is, quote, judgmental, quote, egoic, and other defensive rationalizations to excuse, justify, defend, validate, and uphold their attachment to lies, deceptions, and delusions they live their life by, trying to fabricate wrongs into rights and have people believe it. That bullshit. Many people like to pretend they know what they are talking about while they refuse to accept what they are a party to because they have not gone deep enough and done enough work. There are many frauds, pretenders, and self-delusional, self-deceptive liars going around convinced that they are, quote, spiritual. Don't fall for it. Here's a quote to start the next paragraph. Those who are unaware they are walking in darkness will never seek the light. That's by Bruce Lee. I think it's pretty self-explanatory in regards to everything I've been talking about. You want to pretend love unites? Well, you're in fear. You're fucking walking in darkness, and you don't even want to admit it. You'll never see the light. You'll never seek the light. You'll never discover the truth. You'll never align with it because you're not even aware of how deep in bullshit, lies, deceptions, and illusions you are. So that's what that means. Now to continue with the article. People like to lie to themselves. Facing the truth is uncomfortable for many. Admitting wrong is very hard for some people to do. They will do anything but that. They will perform mental gymnastics, defensive rationalizations, avoidance of the issue, denial, rejection, refusal to acknowledge, and simply, plain old, ignore what they do not want to admit to. This is cognitive dissonance. If you are not ready to truly align, embody, and become greater aspects of truth/love, then at least be able to recognize the truth about your current manifestations of consciousness and how they either create wrong/harm or not. Ignorance, denial, and refusal to admit the truth is a refusal of the first and most important step to accepting truth. So long as you do not acknowledge what you are responsible for through your actions, which includes the false proxy, one eye of money, then there is no possibility of changing. True freedom and peace cannot be built from the murder of innocents, cutting throats, bleeding out, cutting arms and legs off, packaging death for consumption as, quote, food. That is fantasy belief, wishful thinking of having your cake and eating it too. Next paragraph, the image quote meme. What you believe to be true, is it true? Or do you just believe that it is true because you were taught that it was true and never looked any further? Question mark. And that's a quote by Jason Baylor. To continue with the article, a violation of natural law cannot build true lasting goodness or rightness. The foundational core that we build upon must not have cracks. Otherwise, time, through natural law karma, will eventually reciprocate the violation back to us, and the foundation will shatter and the house of cards will fall. This is what humanity is currently experiencing globally, and we will continue to happen in the future as repetitive revolutions, revolving doors, because we are not doing the hard work, the great work of caring for truth, discovering, aligning, embodying, becoming the values, morals, and foundational principles we know to be right, good, and true. Non-violence and non-aggression extends beyond the human species, but to other animal species. We are part of the animal kingdom, animate, having degrees of anima or animus. If you recognize this truth about other animate beings, but are not ready to go all the way, okay. It can take time to develop the courage and willpower to finally say no and do it. You can do it as a gradual reduction. The first step is recognizing that it is wrong. Don't be so entrenched in the ego personality identity construct of attachment to lies, deceptions, and illusions, and respond with excuses and justifications to attempt to fabricate a wrong into a right. I am not interested in arguing with anyone about their failure to recognize right from wrong if they aren't willing to recognize it when I tell it to them, or bother to look into it, taking the time, energy, and effort necessary to dissolve the illusions we have bought into. It's a waste of my time. You aren't interested in the truth. Just in arguing and winning debates to, quote, prove some deeply held on to pillar or foundational, quote, fact that you have built your rationalizations upon. There are people who don't know about the details of natural law, the money system, government, authority and enslavement, and many other things in the world, but they have managed to recognize and accept the truth about the wrongdoings towards other living sentient animal life. They have recognized the good in not doing harm to them. They don't even know the term natural law, and they are more in alignment with it than many truthers are, many quote truthers are. That will be very hard for some people to accept. The truth can hurt when you are not aligned with it, and you may get, quote, offended and insulted. Now here's where I am going to bitch slap all those posers who want to use emotional mind control to attempt to disqualify and invalidate the truth that is being spoken to them. These are people who, oh, that's offensive, that's insulting, that's judgmental, that's mean, and on and on and on of all these other terms that I've talked about already in the article. This is where we're going to get into destroying that illusion that people construct of, oh, well, you're insulting. Anyways, so there was a quote from the paragraph I just ended about they may get offended and insulted, which deals with the offense and insult that I'm going to be dealing with for the next few paragraphs. So it's a quote by Stephen Fry. He says, "It's now very common to hear people say, quote, 'I'm rather offended by that,' as if that gives them certain rights. It's actually nothing more than a whine. Quote, 'I find that offensive. It has no meaning. It has no purpose. It has no reason to be respected as a phrase. Quote, I'm offended by that. Well, so fucking what?' And that's what Stephen Fry had to say. Now, here's the quote for the next paragraph. "We live in a culture where people are more offended by swear words and middle fingers than they are by famine, warfare, and the destruction of our environment." Now, in there apply our enslavement, exploitation, harm, violence, suffering, and murder of innocent, sentient, animate beings that did no one any harm. Okay, so some people are more offended and care more about people swearing than the harm that they are engaged in. So here's the continuation of the article to demonstrate that. "Some people hear or read one swear word and take that as an opportunity to create a flawed, fallacious pillar or foundation upon which to base their response of dismissal and negation to void any validity in what was said. At least that's how it works in their mind. It is a blatant rejection of truth by sidestepping the issue and targeting irrelevant information. Simply because someone, quote, cussed or swore. This is right brain imbalanced emotional mind control. I know of someone popular, quote, popular, on Facebook who acts this way and thinks they understand what emotional mind control is because they read it or watched a video and shared it on their page, completely lying to themselves. And they have quite a following of yuppies who lap up the bullshit and join in. No, you don't understand emotional mind control. You are in it. You're exemplifying it through the expressions of your consciousness. Stop lying to yourself. Get over yourself in opposition to what is right, good, and true, the true self, and get over the denial of the wrongdoings you are engaged in. Here's a quote to bring in more information. This quote says it all about this bullshit of judgment, quote, judgmental, or quote, offending me, or quote, insulting me. This is like 10 words that says it all. If someone corrects you and you feel offended, then you have an ego problem. If someone corrects you and you feel offended, then you have an ego problem. And that's said by Nouman Ali Khan. So, insult. I'm continuing with the article. So, insult, offense. People insult themselves. I only describe what they are doing. Observation and recognition of bullshit and not being afraid to speak it. So here's another quote that describes it all. Another 11, 12 words or whatever. It says it all. The reason people awaken is because they have finally stopped agreeing to things that insult their soul. I'll read it again. The reason people awaken is because they have finally stopped agreeing to things that insult their soul. Did the truth someone spoke quote, insult and, quote, offend you? Good. If you can't think and be intellectually honest with yourself, then feel the bullshit you are a part of. Feel how you are offending yourself by your own actions. Feel the emotional compass telling you there is something wrong going on. And the something wrong is you. You don't feel it normally because the conscious awareness of truth that has brought you to a position of recognizing your own insult/offense was not in conscious awareness and was being ignored. It's only in your conscious awareness because someone is daring to fucking smack your bullshit out and speak the truth to you. That's why you weren't aware of it. That's why you weren't feeling the offense and insult before, because you were ignoring yourself. You were ignoring your manifestations of consciousness. Let's continue with the article. When someone speaks the truth to you, the conscious awareness is brought forth, and then cognitive dissonance kicks in to kick the discomfort back to the curb and out of awareness so that you may continue to live your life believing whatever you want in contradiction, opposition, and conflict with truth. Are hard truths, quote, bashing others? If something I say applied to someone, it is their own choice of theirs that has manifested what they create, not I. I don't bash them, they bash themselves. I bring to the surface to see what others exemplify themselves through their choice of expressions of consciousness and the way they choose to live. It is bringing what is hidden from observation or understanding to the light and exposing it. People judge themselves, whether they want to face it or not, by their own words and their own actions. If no one was speaking the truth, I would not have realized the insults against myself, against the true self, higher will, love, good, right, true, etc. that I was creating, and I would not have chosen to stop being insulted and change, improve, better, sublimate, transmute, purify, heal myself. If the truth someone said insulted me, good. It was about time I stopped lying to myself and faced reality. When a defensive response is engaged, it is a manifestation to potentially realize the need to look in the mirror honestly because you have been failing to do so. So the quote from the previous paragraph I just read is, no matter how difficult and painful it may be, nothing sounds as good to the soul as the truth. And this is completely in harmony with the two previous quotes I read about insults and how you insult yourself by not aligning with the truth, natural law, morality, and all that. So the next image meme quote before the next paragraph is, awakening is not a matter of intelligence. Many intelligent people are deep in illusion, but rather awakening happens when one has an insatiable thirst to know the truth. That's where the care, true care for truth comes in. Because the discomfort, the hurtfulness, the harshness, and all that stuff doesn't stop you from looking into it, doesn't stop you from accepting it. To eventually come to a position where you developed care even more, to choose to fully align and embody it, become it, embody it, exemplify it, and live it in your life. Live by example. So back to the article. We have different levels of awakening. I'm just going to take a drink. We have different levels of awakening. There are different veils of understanding that are reached when prerequisite foundational principles of truth are understood and accepted. The inner work is all about letting go of the illusions, lies, deceptions, and bullshit we use as a basis to live our lives and engage in certain behaviors. The truth of our current condition, in all its beauty and horror, positive and negative, light and dark, must be accepted for what it is before we can begin the alchemical process of transmutation. Truth is the ultimate solution, along with understanding how to apply it in our lives through the wisdom of right action. Care for truth has to reign. Self-transformation, the inner work, happens in layers, in steps, and cannot be done correctly unless prerequisite core foundational principles of truth are recognized. Eventually, if you want to be honest with yourself, to actually be integrated, consistent, congruent, harmonious, united, non-oppositional, non-conflicting, etc., within yourself, your expressions of consciousness, and with the values you say you want to uphold, then you have to make a move and do it. The sooner the better. You will feel the change. As long as you do it for reasons of recognizing the truth, rightness, goodness, of not participating in harm, enslavement, etc., of other non-human animate beings, and not for selfish, quote, diet reasons or, quote, health perceptions. 75% of people who do it for diet, health, and personal reasons fail. Quote, dieters often don't have the motivation to persist in truth and may not seek out the accurate knowledge of nutritional requirements. It's because they don't have the ethics and the morality developed, is what it comes down to. The only way to do it is to understand the truth, not for your selfish reasons. Oh, well, I'm going to lose weight and blah, 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 whatever. Back to the article. A foundation built on truth has not been established, so constructions based on that foundation, or paths taken based in that course of action, will not likely succeed unless they revise the blueprints and redo the foundation to be based upon universal principles of truth. There's an image meme for the next paragraph. Sometimes opening your eyes may be the most painful thing you ever have to do. Alignment of our perceptions with the truth of this condition we are party to is the only way to do it. This is, quote, veganism. It is about, quote, do no harm. Other animate beings have their own lives to live and are not your property. Do not steal anything from them, including their lives. It is really simple if you are honest with yourself. The next step is to embody natural law morality and non-violence, non-aggression, and doing no harm all the way, not being a tent pitcher. It is hard work letting go of the illusions and deceptions we have been conditioned into and have also bought into willingly. Failure to recognize animals as deserving to live their own lives and not being our property is a mind virus poison of separation and disconnection with what they are as life, how they relate to us in many ways, and ultimately a separation and disconnection with what is true, right, good, moral, natural law, higher self, higher will, etc. This is why you go, quote, vegan, because you understand this to your core being. Not because of the health benefits of no longer being a graveyard for dead bodies, carcasses, corpses, and cadavers. I will be getting deeply into the animal issue in the future on Evolve Consciousness on the website. because this is an issue that people don't even understand how important it is for our future. It's incredible. So the article, I'll finish, the paragraph had one sentence. It's huge and is a major part of our failure to align with universal, cosmic, natural moral law. And again, I provided a link to my article. And then I have a video of the World Peace Diet by Will Tuttle, who I quoted earlier, who was talking about compassion being ethical intelligence and taking action to do what is right. You know, does he know about natural law? Does he know about the money system, government? Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. My point is, you don't have to be one of these truthers or whatever and all these groups that we're a part of and all this bullshit to be someone who has greater alignment with natural law principles than other people who pretend to be. Will Tuttle is a guy who gets it. Even if he doesn't get other things, he gets the most important. This animal issue, participation in enslavement and murder and harm and violence and exploitation. Oh, he gets that. That's why he calls, quote, veganism the world peace diet, because it is. And world peace ain't gonna happen until we do, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, grandma, grandpa, everybody. Okay? You just need to get it. Continuing with the article, we have a quote here from Mahatma Gandhi, and you'll understand this right away if you understand what I've been talking about and how I correlate love, truth, and good and everything else. Here's what he has to say, and it'll make sense to you now if you didn't understand it before. There is no God higher than truth. And amen, Brother Gandhi, because damn, that is the truth right there. Truth is the most important thing. All these fake pseudo-spiritualists and New Agers and, oh, I'm giving love and light, and all these Facebook comments of people, oh, sending love and light, and blah, 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 blah. They don't even understand what the hell they're talking about. All they have are these feelings, oh, I care, I have affection, I'm infatuated by what you say, so I'm sending you love and light. It's all just, anyways. It's another issue for another time. The New Age deception is so much bullshit in it that Mark Passio hasn't talked about in his major critical points on the New Age deception, but there's a lot of stuff going on there that I've experienced myself. So to continue from Gandhi's quote into the article, all of this can seem harsh, cruel, mean, quote, judgmental, quote, egoic, and whatever other dismissive, defensive rationalization you can come up with to not want to face the truth. The truth is, you insult and offend yourself, the true self, higher will, universal cosmic natural moral law, and what is right, good, and true, by your expressions of consciousness known as actions and behavior in what you create in the world, and you don't even see it. You don't, quote, get it. If you do get it, awesome. Awesome. It brings me great joy when myself or others align with truth. I am not here to make friends. I'm here to care for truth. Some people will understand, and others won't, and will not like me. They will not like the messenger for telling them things they don't want to hear. So be it. I cannot placate, comfort, spoon-feed, and be worried about people's delicate sensibilities founded on lack of self-knowledge and understanding who they are due to being attached to erroneous beliefs, lies, deceptions, and illusions they have as a basis for self-image, for their self-image, self-concept, etc. Do the work. Take the time, energy, effort, persistence, and dedication to seek, discover, and align with truth. There was a little quote in there. Being honest may not get you a lot of friends, but it will always get you the right ones. And amen to that. I've written articles, and they're linked at the bottom of this. One is called Am I Ignoring Others? Another one is called Relationships, Friends, and Truth. And another one is called Solitude and Truth. Care for truth is what's most important to me. And I'll be dealing with that in my last section after this one, entitled Care for Truth. So we have a big quote here by Will Tuttle. When I just mentioned about the World Peace Diet in the previous quote, he understands what he's talking about. I know because I understand it, and it's in alignment with truth, natural law, morality, etc. Love, good, whatever. So the quote is, being unwilling and unable to see, confront, and take responsibility for the hidden ocean of horror that our most basic activity causes to those who are as sentient and vulnerable as we are, we have split ourselves into a schizophrenia of politeness and civility that lives uneasily with the remorseless cruelty that surfaces whenever we obtain or eat animal foods. Choosing to be blind to what we are actually doing when we shop for, prepare, and eat food, we blind ourselves not only to the horror and suffering we are instigating and eating, but also to the beauty of the world around us. This acquired inability to actually see and appreciate the overwhelming loveliness of this earth allows us to ravage forests and oceans and systematically destroy the natural world, becoming insensitive to the beauty and luminosity of creation that we oppress and from which we disconnect at every meal. The desensitizing of millions of children and adults on the massive scale that consuming millions of tortured animals daily requires sows countless seeds of human violence, war, poverty, and despair. These outcomes are unavoidable, for we can never reap joy, peace, and freedom for ourselves while sowing the seeds of harming and enslaving others. We may speak of love, kindness, freedom, and a gentler world. Yet it is our actions, especially those that are habitually practiced, that determine what future outcomes we and others will experience. The cycles of violence that have terrorized people both historically and today are rooted in the violence of our daily meals. Though animals cannot retaliate like other people can, our violence towards them retaliates against us. Will Tuttle, World Peace Diet. The quote has a link to his video. Go watch it. Evolve Consciousness. Continuing with the article. Greater quality truth brings greater care and appreciation for truth. And this truth brings evolution in consciousness and is an automatic expansion of the force of love/truth within us to varying degrees. The more we become consciously aware of what is true, right, and good, the more we can align and embody it. True care develops from recognizing the importance of truth. As our consciousness expands, our connection to the force of truth/love increases in harmony and alignment, and we learn to identify with more life and go beyond the separation of family versus race, species versus other species. There are degrees of care, compassion, empathy, or quote, love, that we embody and develop as we increase our conscious awareness and evolve consciousness. Those who express their consciousness as violating universal cosmic natural moral law are self-describing themselves and their current level of consciousness to those who have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. It is simple. Care for truth is undeveloped. Conscience is undeveloped, and the heart center is undeveloped. All through our own choice to deny, refuse, and reject truth. We do it to ourselves. When we understand how this works, we see it. We have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. Here's an image meme quote for the next paragraph, the last paragraph before the Care for Truth section. Almost done the article. So, do not correct a fool, for he will hate you. Correct a wise man, for he will appreciate you. And this goes with the 5 quotes I listed earlier in the Love Represents Good section, I think. I'm back with the paragraph. Get insulted, get offended, as though I have, quote, no right to tell anyone the bullshit they are living and the lack of development of certain aspects of their being. I can see past the self-deceptions. I see an aspect of the shadow that they don't want to face. And I see some of the psychological mechanisms and causal factors, that is to say, barriers to self-knowledge, that lead to their expressions in consciousness. I know this because it applies to anyone that manifests consciousness in certain ways. It's the process of consciousness expressions. Certain results, expressions, or effects can be traced back to causal root factors that are responsible for the specific manifestations. For those specific manifestations. Knowledge of the functionality of the psyche is universally applicable across humanity because we all function in the same basic way at a core level. If we want to change our current condition and way of living and being, we can, but first we have to be honest with ourselves. This is all through conditioning and willful ignorance on our parts. We need to develop the care for truth, discover it, accept it, embrace it, and have the courage and will to, embody and become it. Dissolving, shattering, destroying, and transmuting, sublimating, purifying, healing, etc. our shadows, darkness, demon, and negative into what is truly good for us is hard work. The great work of aligning and embodying truth. It is a lifelong process that I am glad to be working on. I hope to see you on the spiritual journey and path towards greater attainment of truth and not have to deal with excuses and justifications to sustain attachment to illusions. We must all do the work. Persist and dedicate ourselves to truth and embodying it through the inner work of dissolution of the shadow. We have to stop denying the shadow aspect that we are manifesting through our being, our expressions of consciousness, most specifically, actions and behaviors. Time to wake up, open our eyes, and face ourselves in honesty. Stop bullshitting. Psychology is crucial to understand. This is the last section before the summary. Care for truth. As I understand things, my, quote, one true divide is care for truth. Caring for truth enough to be able to face the truth with honesty and recognition of what it is, even if it hurts, is uncomfortable, is, quote, mean, quote, judgmental, and whatever else emotional mind control may be preventing reception of a particular truth being provided to us. Care for truth isn't maintaining ignorance, avoidance, denial, and rejection of truth through attachment to excuses and justifications, fabricating a wrong into a right. As I said earlier, if we aren't ready to fully align and embody a particular aspect of truth, okay. But at least we still care for truth enough to accept it as truth. It will take some time, energy, effort, dedication, persistence, and determination to progress up the steps, levels, and remain there. The shadow can always crawl back into our behaviors and habits if we are not vigilant in the support, alignment, unity, and embodiment of vitriolic truth. We have to exemplify, become, embody, and live by example through the values of natural law morality we say we uphold. As Mark Passio describes vitriol in podcast number 139 of What on Earth is Happening. vitriol, each word, means in alchemical teachings visita interiora ter rectificando inviens occultum lapitum. So this translates into visit the interior of the earth, and through rectification you will find the hidden stone. By way of making this upright, rectifying, you will uncover the hidden stone. This means you need to start looking at yourself. You need to look inwardly to understand what is really controlling things, what is really going on in the world as a direct result, an outward manifestation of what is taking place within each individual. The only way to really understand the causal factors of our experience and the external reality is to go within, and there we will find that generative force. And the force that Mark's talking about is love/truth, good, morality, natural law, true self, higher will. To continue with this quote, vitriol comes from the Latin to mean sulfate of iron or sulfuric acid. It means vicious or bitter criticism, acidic, biting speech. Acidic speech is there to wear down the lie. It's meant to show people that the lie is not something to be respected. Anybody who backs up the lie reinforces it. So that's the end of that quote from podcast 139 on the word vitriol. Now back to before I start the next paragraph, I'll read an image meme quote. The truth often hurts. That is why so many ignore it. Now to the paragraph. Do you see how I speak? I do not speak to hate. I do not speak to divide and create problems. Those who are attached to lies and illusions are the dividers. I speak to destroy, shatter, dissolve, deconstruct, etc. the bullshit, lies, deceptions, and illusions that create division people are so attached to and prevent them from aligning with what is right, good, true, moral, natural law, true self, higher will, etc. Indeed, it is destroying their false sense of self, their ego personality identity construct that needs shadow work of transmutation, their perception of reality, worldview, and their position in it. It is regarded as an attack on the person because they don't understand themselves and what they are a part of, or who they are beyond the attachment to the current ego personality identity construct. They don't understand the malleability, mutability, and changeability of the ego personality identity construct and how it was already conditioned, manipulated, mind-controlled, deceived, conned, duped, tricked, etc. into false, incorrect, wrong, immoral, bad, etc. behavioral mechanisms, actions, and ways of living and being. We need to reprogram ourselves into not doing harm anymore by being consciously aware of the correspondences and interrelationships of sentient animate beings, i.e., that is to say, the quote class of animal life, which we are a part of, and they are a part of. Animals, animate. Okay? It's in the word. People want to deny it and twist shit and illogical, irrational pillars and foundations that they desperately hold on to, and they think that they're in the right, and it's just absurd. It's not even worth arguing with these people. You can already detect their level of consciousness from their expressions. Back to the article. So that was a sidestep on vitriol. Now I'm back to truth, back to care. Well, it was all had to do with care and truth, but anyways. Back to the paragraph of the article. Back to caring for truth. Period. It is at least being able to honestly admit where you actually are in terms of the level of harm you participate in, instead of maintaining a quote feel-good, comfortable, delusional self-image and self-concept that you are not actively supporting, consenting to, and participating in enslavement, exploitation, harm, suffering, violence, or murder of innocent, sentient, animate beings. I see those who engage in active denial, rejection, excuses, and justifications about what is actually wrong and causing harm, or if they do so through the proxy of willful ignorance and avoidance of the issue when it is brought up, as spitting in the face of truth. They don't give a shit about truth. They don't have a true care developed for truth. They are actively stomping on its face, spitting on it, because of their attachment to bullshit lies, deceptions, and illusions they associate with an aspect of their identity, being, etc. Here's two quotes. One's from Mark Passio. Willful ignorance is the presence of knowledge. Willful ignorance in the presence of knowledge is the measure of a bad person. Apply that to what I'm talking about, you'll understand why this delusion of thinking you're good doesn't happen when your expressions of consciousness contradict that. The next quote is by Anonymous. It's, ignorance is the root cause of all evil. Since only knowledge eradicates ignorance, it is our duty and moral obligation to educate ourselves as well as the masses around us. That's part of the great work. It's part of the care for truth. To continue with the article, some people think they, quote, care for truth and think they are, quote, really moral, that they, quote, really understand or even, quote, fully live natural law. But their actions and behaviors directly contradict their self-perceptual claims. No one is perfect, but simply face the truth, and admitting wrong is what is required to develop initial care for truth. The initial care is the recognition and realization that something is wrong and action is required to change things. That's the first awakening level. If you participate in harm, recognize it. Then you work on developing more true care, courage, and willpower to embody, become, exemplify, and live by what you know to be right, good, moral, etc. by no longer choosing those wrong, bad, harmful, or immoral actions and behaviors. If you know about the harm you participate in and never do something about it, then you are not in wisdom of right action and don't really, quote, know, don't really, quote, get it yet. I'll just interject the image meme for this paragraph because it fits in right there. To know and not to do is not to know. That's a quote from Wang Yangming. Back into the middle of the paragraph, where we just finished with wisdom of right action and not knowing and not getting it. At some point, action is required. Care, courage, and will need to be enacted and persisted in. Some people are so entrenched in negative ego identification with lies that they are blind to see what they are actually doing in their lives. This is my pet peeve. The bullshit that comes out of their minds to express to others, and they just won't let go of it. What a drag, what a drain on time and energy that is. It goes in circles, round and round, all to support the fabrication of a wrong into a right, quote, justification, in their minds. A spell that has been introduced into our social collectivist consciousness to put us into the predator mindset. I'll repeat that. It's a spell that has been introduced into our social consciousness, into the groupthink, to put us into the predator mind virus. Core foundational principles of truth are not fully understood. What we sow, so shall we reap. Go back and read the Will Tuttle quote. That's exactly what he's talking about. Non-support of slavery or masters is part of the care for truth, as are all percept-shifting foundational principles of truth based on natural law morality. They're all part of the care for truth. If my one true divide was non-support, non-consent, non-participation in the master-slave relationship, then all of those people who are not yet, quote, vegan and continue to do harm to other sentient animate beings would be on the side of the enemy in this, quote, true divide. But as I have mentioned, if you are still participating in it, but know and want to stop, then at least you have some form of initial care for truth, to recognize what wrongs and harm you are a part of, and are working to reduce, lessen, and alleviate your participation in it because you can through a change in behavior. Rejection of that fact, of the need and requirement to change for the better, is ignorance, avoidance, denial, rejection, and stomping on the face of truth without a care for it. That is why my, quote, one true divide as care for truth makes more sense to me than making my one true divide the non-support of the master-slave dichotomy. Many people think they understand this, quote, non-support of the master/slave dichotomy as well, but do not really. They are still expressing their consciousness in behavior that leads to enslavement and murder of innocent, animate beings. Some people understand it, but have not come to a position of right action to embody it fully. The care isn't developed enough to take action. If you can't embody it yet, that is one thing, but to deny and refuse it is another. Stop spurting bullshit, justifications, to try to fabricate a wrong into a right. Willful refusal to acknowledge what is can't even get you to a place of action and changing to embody it. Facing the truth in honesty and accepting it is required. Care for truth is the quote true divide, for me anyways. Can't face the vitriol? I will not comfort your ignorance. Where do you think human slavery comes from? On whom do you think slavery was first forced upon? Do you think the first violation was against another human? Do you think that the first time humans decided to force enslavement, exploitation, harm, and violence onto another sentient animate being was on another human before a non-human? Now here's a quote about what I'm getting into here, where slavery comes from. You might understand it just from this quote. We must live in peace with nature and other animals before we can live in peace with other people. It's by A.D. Williams. This is profound to understand. Tracing cruelty, violence, and murder, the taking of innocent life, back in history, you realize the treatment towards humans could only occur after separation to others emerged and allowed that treatment to other animals. Then the acceptance of the negative behavior evolved. I'll start over. Then the acceptance of the negative behavior evolved into more separation, this time between humans, and the violence and harm done to other animals was applied to humans. Only when we live in peace and do no harm to other sentient animate beings connected to us will we then we won't find peace if we don't do that. We can try to create peace through each of us, adding up to a quantum effect whereby peace would result on the exterior for humans. But this will never happen as long as people are not vegan. As long as people support this enslavement and exploitation and violence against other sentient animate beings. As long as people participate, consent, and support violence, enslavement, and murder of other non-human animals, then we will never find inner peace. We will forever be in the predator mind virus embodiment and being of violence, enslavement, and murder, and peace cannot come through this modality of being and consciousness. It is anathema and mutually exclusive for peace to coexist with enslavement, violence, and murder. Here is further explanation about the first victims of the slavery predator mind virus. The relative degrees of similarity and difference between various human animals compared to the relative degrees of similarity and difference between human animals and other non-human animals is a self-evident recognition for me to know who were the first targets of the mind virus of evil, wrong, harm, violence, etc. This is an infection of the mind, a poison and disease of separation that grows. It grew into more separation and disconnection. It was the dissociation of right action conduct between human animals and non-human animals. We identified and cared most for those we were familiar with and attached to, our family, then the local community of people, if that. If there were other races, then identification with the races. If that, maybe there was conflict there as well. Then other sentient animate beings, if that identification is there. it follows that the first to have enslavement, exploitation, harm, violence, and murder enforced on them was the other sentient, animate beings, because they have the greatest degree of difference compared to other humans that are more similar to each other than other animals. More similarity is more identification, attachment, and care. More difference is more separation and dissociation of identification and care for other sentient animate beings. If you have any intuitively logical conceptions that can contradict what I'm saying here, please let me know. To me, it makes the most sense. Even if I wasn't in history, I can understand the psychological mechanisms at play in identity and the disconnection, disassociation, and separation of care. As long as the mind virus of immorality, enslavement, exploitation, harm, violence, or murder continue to be supported, consented to, participated in, or perpetrated by us, then we are not embodying, exemplifying, becoming, and living by example of the universal cosmic natural moral law. It is very simple once you connect the dots, correspondences, and see the patterns. Not caring for truth is demonstrated in the expressions of consciousness of not being willing to take the time, energy, and effort to persist in the determination of seeking to discover truth, but instead engaging in rejection, refusal, avoidance, or denial of a truth presented to you, rather than verifying if it is indeed accurate. Many people are indeed capable of recognizing the truth when it is presented to them, and others need a bit more time, effort, and energy to verify its accuracy. But they care for truth. They have taken the time, energy, and effort to develop some real eyes to realize the real eyes. They may not have been aware of a deeper understanding or have connected all the dots, but when the truth about a condition is presented, they are capable of having the eyes to see and the ears to hear, or at least look into it further on their own, because they already do recognize an aspect of truth within it. A glimmer of light shines and is observed more carefully. That is caring for truth. Many people will recognize the veracity of a truth. Some may take time to accept it, while others will deny, avoid, defend, excuse, justify, dismiss, deflect, spin, change subject, etc., because they are not yet at a level of consciousness to comprehend it or face it. Truth takes time. It requires steps of prerequisite foundational core principles to be recognized and understood, then building onto them with more conscious awareness of enough aspects of truth in order to develop and grasp a holistic, bigger picture understanding of reality and ourselves. So there was an image meme at the beginning of this paragraph. The truth has never denied the seeker. It is the seeker who has denied the truth. That's what I was talking about. People who seek it, not ready to align, okay. Those who can align, great. But those who reject it, they don't care for truth. They don't give a shit for truth. They're just in denial. And they're not even going to take the time to look into it, because they can't even recognize a glimmer of light and truth within what was said. They're just completely entrenched in the darkness of attachment to false beliefs and delusions they use as a basis for their ego personality identity construct. And at the end of the paragraph, got an image meme saying, keep going. Each step may get harder, but don't stop. The view at the top is beautiful. And you're damn straight it is. Truth is beautiful. Truth is love. Truth is good. Truth is God. Truth is everything that is good. So this is the last part, the summary. The image meme quote is, "Do what is right, not what is easy." Do you want to placate, walk on eggshells, keep the peace, don't make waves, don't get hassled, don't rock the boat, sugarcoat and lie to someone to continue to make them feel comfortable and good about themselves, and maintain your relationship, attachment, quote, loyalty, etc., so they don't have to change, do any work, and face themselves in what they do? Or do you want to speak the truth that may hurt or be uncomfortable due to their choice to deny truth and align with lies, deceptions, illusions, and bullshit? Do you want to help them face themselves to improve their lives and the lives of everyone else? If you didn't care about someone, would you bother to try to help them by having them face the things they don't want to face? Of course not. You would just let them wallow in ignorance and not care. Once you understand the importance of truth, letting people ignore the shadow aspect of themselves that are causing harm to other beings in what they do in daily life is not care / quote, love for them or others. It is enabling them to perpetuate bullshit, lies, deceptions, and delusions as manifestation of action and behavior to continue to collectively That is enabling them to perpetuate bullshit, lies, deceptions, and illusions as manifestation of action and behavior to continue the collective self-inflicted suffering, harm, wrong, immorality, etc. that we co-create. We are not calling the bullshit out. That is not care / quote, love. Speak the truth. The vitriolic force and impact that speaking truth has is to force people to look at themselves honestly, because the mirror of their actions and behaviors and what they are manifesting as a result is being put up to their face by those speaking truth. They just need to open their eyes and look at themselves. The next paragraph, image quote meme, is, "Do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better." That's from Maya Angelou. So back to the article. How brave are we, though? Do we have courage to do it? I need to develop more courage. I am not all the way there in speaking it and getting the truth out. I just started, though. Doing something small is better than doing nothing at all. I still have to develop capacities in me to be able to speak well publicly. I am working my way there. I have other issues to work on as well. I have been almost, quote, vegan for 1.5 years with a honey problem, so not 100% in what my creative, active, one-eye proxy of money creates in terms of the harm I can choose to say no to and not be a part of. No more honey for 2 weeks now. Wish me luck. Ha ha ha. My last thing to be consciously full vegan in my living choices and behavior was honey. I was not living up to what I knew I could be doing to make a difference towards not causing harm and suffering. Every action counts. Hopefully tea doesn't tempt me enough to backslide on the one thing and not fully align with the values and foundational principles of morality I know to be right, good, and true. I have not been, quote, vegan because of the honey, but, quote, vegetarian, yes, for 1.5 years. I don't buy any animal flesh, liquid or solid, apart from the honey I did buy. Their property is not for us, and I knew it, but the low base consciousness to sacrifice and compromise truth in favor of 5 sense illusions of taste, pleasure, sensation, attachment, overrode what I knew to be true, right, and good. It was an internal contradiction, opposition, conflict, non-integration, non-unity, etc., with truth, and what I knew I could do to reduce and lessen my participation in exploitation, harm, and violation of rights of other sentient, animate beings. Once we know better, we can and should do better. The wisdom of right action. There's a link to that article I wrote. Until we do, we insult ourselves because we are in internal contradiction with truth. That is the way natural law works. The point is to work on it once you know about it with time, energy, effort, dedication, determination, and persistence. It's a reprogramming job to uninstall negative habitual programming software and install new software that is in line and connects with what is right, good, true, moral, natural law, higher self, higher will, etc. That is evolution of consciousness. Truth, love, good, natural law, morality, true self, higher will, source, God, all, mind, etc. is a force. The greatest force there is. It is all the same force once you see the correspondences, networks, and interconnecting patterns of similarity and difference, a holistic understanding of how they relate. That is to say, evolving consciousness, seeing the patterns and the corresponding interconnections. So they may differ in various degrees of similarity and difference in their properties and characteristics, but they equate to the same thing in my understanding. They are of the same, quote, class, the same, quote, plane. I will have to say that if you are against the principles of, quote, veganism, to do no harm to other sentient animate beings, then you are against a full exemplification and embodiment of natural law, higher will, higher self, right, good, truth, love, etc. And against the future of those of us who care the most want to bring forward. Those of us who know this know it as much as those who know non-aggression and non-violence towards other humans is the future we all strive towards as well. A future of truth/love, freedom, peace, order cannot be engaged in with enslavement, exploitation, harm, suffering, violence, or murder of other sentient animate beings. Murder of innocent sentient animate beings that did no one any harm, cutting them open, bleeding them out, ripping body parts off, packaging death, dead bodies, carcasses, cadavers, and corpses. It is sick once your eyes open up to it. And here's the quote from Vernon Howard: "Human sickness is so severe that few can bear to look at it. But those who do will become well." That's the problem with this hard truth that I've been talking about so much in this article, that completely is interwoven and connected to the heart of truth, love, goodness, right, morality, natural law, true self, higher will, God, all, mental, mind, all that. This is at the heart of it. Murder, exploitation, enslavement, violence, harm, suffering. This is at the heart of natural law. This is morality. And people have no clue. I didn't have a clue until Mark Passio shook me up in one of his earlier podcasts And it took me a while, and then eventually I said, I gotta fucking align with truth. No more of this bullshit. I'm a coward. Time to stop being a coward and develop the willpower and do it. And I did it just like that. Because enough is enough. Enough is enough. The bullshit needs to end. We need to stop lying to ourselves. We need to develop true care. We need to develop courage and the willpower to change in alignment with what is truth, love, good, right, and all that greatness. All those values we say and pretend to uphold, but we don't actually do it because we're too busy lying to ourselves. So that's pretty much the article. At the end I say, please correct me if your explanation, please correct me with your explanation if you know me to be wrong. I would enjoy responses from people who can understand what I am talking about. Please comment. Smiley face. Peace.